what do you rate me?
Is that what we're starting off with?
Yeah.
I don't typically rate people. I ask them if they rate themselves.
Your fate is before you. Choose wisely.
Like I work in finance. God bless, no, it's not by chance. Don't dab me, you're not my man. Don't at me, you're not my man. Mama said don't buy it if you cannot buy it twice. I cop by the tools and I don't pump fake with the price. Always on the grind, I put in work with all my might. I know that he got me, not by sight. I skirt like bandage, I slide out landage. All black like that. Sit 4 days, that's for sure though. Grinding from the grip, no shame, take a photo. Time to take a trip, we head north to the border. Say you feeling up, I'm my favorite type of hoarder. I got kids to feed, I got enemies, I got God's gift, so they envy me. Got some friends out in Memphis like I'm Aubrey. Got some friends fought for orange like them autumn leaves. I skirt like bandage, I slide out landage. Vito Benji, all black like Batman. I skirt like vanish, I slide out landish. Vito Benji, all black like Batman. 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 Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Watch out for those who surround you, need no funny kind. You can't see what's on my brain, I live inside my mind. Out of space and out of sight, you need me in my line. Need no face, don't need no phonies, no. Need no snakes, no only homies down for show. On go. Get a book and get the front end, we load up and roll. I got kids, yeah, I got staff, I make a little need more. I sell records, you sell packs, not on my level, no. I'm a pop star, I'm a rock star, I'm a winner. Think I'm not hard, you smoke rock, hard waste, man, why you dumb? I'm with airline, we on airlines like we on the run. I'm with Tay, girls run up on me, they done. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my.
Ma jolie, oh ma jolie. Ah yeah, Every time I come around you, baby girl, something doesn't feel the same. You said that I'm changing, but it's really you. I see how you play those games. Wifey type for a main man. A queen can make moves, a king can't. Snatch you up, now you taking. Gave you bricks, now you building a wall up, wall up. Lately you and I been all love, all love. I don't know what's up with our love, our love. You forgetting all about us, oh. My jolie, oh my jolie, where are you? When I need you the most, you still MIA. This is murder, heart is melting, girl you got me. Called your bluffing, made you something, now you talking. Telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? Telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? My jolie, oh my jolie. My jolie, oh my jolie. You don't turn on me now. You don't get no time for me now, babe. Got him on a rebound, but it's only you that I like, babe. Tout ce que j'ai fait c'était pour toi. Sur le haut parle mais t'écoutes pas. Tu me vois crever mais tu bouges pas. Pourquoi? Whoa, yo, wall up, wall up. You can't even get the scores up for us. I don't know what's up with our love, our love. You're forgetting all about us, oh. My jolie, oh my jolie, where you been? When I need you the most, you still MIA. This is murder, heart is melting, girl you got me. This is called the bluffing, need you something, now you talking. I call you bluff. You telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? Telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? My jolie, oh my jolie. Girl, you got me. Called your bluffing, made you something, now you talking. You telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? Telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? Cool it off. I don't know how to cool it off. My jolie, oh my jolie.
I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen. I've been living wild, I'm just going through the motions. Stumbling out the Uber, grabbed my hand, gave me a notion. Swimming in your water, but it feels just like the ocean. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I was sipping more for 2 years straight to the face. Champagne belly bubble still won't go away. Last year my best man hit a stain with bad face. Now he's got a hell behind the water's cold case. I wake up with pain sometime and never go away. Wonder why I bow down to my knees when I pray. In my city gritty, gotta keep it on your waist. Or you might be a victim, they'll find you DOA. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind.
Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well. All right, guys, we're about to get it cracking and popping. And today it's going to be a collaboration about reflecting on the inner sanctum of masculinity. And the question would remain, is did K. Samuels violate his inner sanctum as a man by Nicki Minaj? Was Kevin right in how he conducted himself with Nicki Minaj? Or was Kevin Samuels playing chess with Nicki Minaj? Get your pens and paper ready. This is going to be a powerful show talking about the Manhood Chronicles as we explore whether or not men compromise their power when they're around beautiful women. Let's do it. Bringing it to you live once again from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, where the topography is serene, pristine, and verdant green, where every day is Father's Day, and where manhood is part of hills and valleys, victories and failures, and whereas men, we don't agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause only to dissipate once the crisis is over. Now listen, I'm about to drop some fire for your mind. But before I drop that fire, let's explore why we are doing the Manhood Chronicles. The question, guys, is critical to these questions in masculinity as it relates to men standing on their square, even in the midst of attractive women. Now, let me say this. It's easy to say what a person won't do or will do when they're not in that situation. Me knowing myself and my personality, if Nikki would have asked me the question what I rated her, I think I would have probably gave her a 6.5 to 7. And I know Kevin don't believe in using the 7 as a scale, but that's what I would have done. But shout out to that brother. But the question remained because we talk about the tenets that William Glasser talked about, guys. Power, fun, freedom, survival, and belonging. But are so many men broken from their past and the desire to belong and the desire for power, that they compromise their masculinity at a point when they should be more or less standing firm on masculine principles. And this is a rhetorical question because everybody have been divided on this fiasco with Kevin Samuels and Nicki Minaj. Some say that Kevin did a very astute job in conducting himself and that Kevin was playing chess with Nicki Minaj. But then there are some that say Kevin should have checked her like he checked black women when they're, regular black women, not a woman of star-studded appeal. And so different people got different perspectives about this, but I want to have this discussion because it's all part of mental wellness and understanding how your formative years can impact your future if you don't learn how to uncover so that you can recover. Because uncovering is part of understanding the inner sanctum of masculinity. I did a show in the past talking about the inner sanctum of masculinity, and it goes back to Hebrew theology, which and that was that special place that only the priest could go as it relates to the presence of God being there. And because we are men, many times black men and many American men don't have an inner sanctum because their inner sanctum has never been fortified with other men telling them how to be men, or they don't have a cadre of brothers to hold them accountable. But I want to have this discussion because I want to make sure we're on the right page. I want to make sure that I'm very fair and judicious in my explanation or examination of this show that Kevin Samuels had with Nicki Minaj in the past. And it's relevant because many times when we're in the pursuit of power, we can compromise our masculinity for a short amount of fame, for attractive women, for the need to belong, or sometimes for the need to survive. And that goes back to what William Glasser talked about. When Glasser talked about, once again, he talked about choice theory. People make choices based on their needs. And if they're not getting their needs met, then sometimes choices can be good or bad. In a broader context of right or wrong, the choices should be good choices based on power, fun, freedom, survival, and belonging. But one could argue that when you do it and it does not more or less benefit the broader community, then it's an issue. So as the 18 people that are listening, get the likes up. Share the content. Shout out to my man Maurice Speaks. He said, I give her at least a 9. I respect that, brother. You give her a 9. I respect that. I don't think she's a 9 because she's been surgically enhanced, but I do respect your opinion and position. She does have a very pretty oval face, but because she's been surgically enhanced, I don't know if I can give her a 9. I can't give her a 9. Strong 7 at best. But a 9, she's not a 9 in my opinion, but that's my own personal opinion. I don't knock anybody else for their opinion. When you compare a Nicki Minaj compared to women abroad, compare a non-Nicki Minaj to an average foreign woman, Nicki Minaj would be a strong 5 or 6 if you rated her abroad. But the question remains, guys, is this. Do men compromise their masculinity as men? And you're right, Cortez, he is talking about her face. He's talking about the symmetry of her face, but I'm talking about the whole woman. I don't know if Nicki had extensions. I don't know if she had fake hair. I don't know. I think her hair is natural. But he's talking about her facial symmetry, and I understand that. But I don't know if she's a 9, and that's my own personal opinion. Everybody, some of you guys think she's a 9. I don't think she's a 9 because, once again, she's surgically enhanced. Even Nicki said she thought she was a 7. She's a 38-year-old woman, so she can't be a 9 in my all the plastic aesthetics, then that person can't be a 9. She's older now. Maybe a 20-year-old Nicki Minaj was a 9, but not a 38-year-old Nicki. That's juxtaposed whether she's a 9 or 10. Men sometimes when in the position or when they're in the presence of beautiful women, that sometimes they lose their rabbit loving mind. As men, we all can be guilty of it, including myself. I can be guilty of it if I'm not careful. That's why men are very, weary about allowing women into men's spaces, because men believe the allure of a woman can cause a man to compromise his masculinity, which in essence can compromise his inner sanctum as a man. So do men compromise their standards around beautiful women? Do you feel that Kevin Samuels compromised his standards when he was around Nicki Minaj? Do you feel that Kevin Samuels took a major L for the manosphere? Some say that he did. Some say that he didn't. Or do you feel that Kevin Samuels was playing checkers, chess, being diplomatic, and being malleable? Kevin Samuels is a Pisces. Pisces are very malleable. They know how to move around. Some say that they're shapeshifters. Some say they're very duplicitous. Or was Kevin just, was it a power move? It's a broad question. I'm going to drop the link at some point and we're going to talk about it. But integrity and being a man sometimes can be hard. And I told you guys that manhood is a series of hills and valleys, victories and failures. And I told you guys, as men, we don't always agree on all things or ideologies, but we come together as allies. We come together as allies. We come together as allies. We come together as allies of a common cause, because there's a cause for the universality of the suffering that black men and men in general are going through, only to go away when the crisis is over. There's a crisis in heteronormative masculinity that many men have felt the need to express their grievances on the internet. At one point, the barbershop. Now we've taken to the virtual barbershop when men come together to coalesce and to talk about the things that have been bothering them mentally and also on a psychic level. Get the likes up, guys. If you have not donated to the channel, donate to the channel. If you don't have any money, share the content. But back to point. Do schema afflictions cause some men to break when they're around beautiful women? Do schema afflictions cause men to compromise their masculinity as a man when they're around women or people of prestige and power? And that was the question that caused a great divide or a chasm among the brethren. Some men in these spaces are not necessarily of the manosphere. They're just men. They have male issues and they relate with men in the manosphere. Some men are part of the manosphere and they have a conversation. Some men are just, have their own lane and they're just partitions of the greater collective men coming together. But the question remains that he compromised his square as a man. Did he violate his inner sanctum as a man? And I'll say this to go on record. I respect Mr. Samuels. I think he's done some good things. Do I agree with everything he says? No. Will he agree with everything I say? No. But do I respect the brother for having the tenacity to speak truth to power based on how he sees fit? Yes. Kevin says some good things. But Kevin is not perfect, and neither am I. Kevin does not more or less hold the mantle of all things and know all things regarding men, and neither do I. We all have pieces of wisdom and knowledge that we can more or less disseminate to other men. But we're going to have a discussion, guys, because a schema is based on cognitive awareness. A schema is a fixation in your head. It might say, I'm ugly, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve. Because many of you men were imprinted by women, which has caused you to have a schema affliction even in your current years. You were imprinted in your formative years, but in your current years, you're still imprinted because you remember that woman that said you were ugly. You remember that woman that said you were dusty. You remember that woman that said you were short. You remember that woman that said you were goofy. You remember that woman that said you were broke. You remember that woman that said you didn't have any game, you were lame. And because of that schema affliction, even though you can be chronologically a grown man, you're still broken mentally because you still have a schema affliction. And that affliction is due to the fear of rejection. And it goes back to what William Glasser talked about: fun, power, freedom, belonging, and survival. And many times Glasser said that these are unconscious motivations that we are not aware of. They are unconscious motivations that we are not aware of. There are things that are in our psyche that we are not aware of, which in essence, if we're not aware of those things, we can become a saboteur of our own ignorance. And because of that, we can become an embarrassment. So once again, it's a mixed idea or a mixed group in the, more or less pronunciation or the assimilation of Mr. Samuels. Some said that he did a masterful job. Some were split. They say he could have handled it better, but in some areas he did a good job. And some say he took an epic fail. And I have been meaning to do this show for a while, guys, because, no man lives on the island unto himself. Iron sharpens iron. And so, we can't say we're one thing when the coast is clear, but we're another thing when, the pressure's not on us. And so I'm a firm believer that a man should strive to be consistent in his pronunciations at all times. He shouldn't flip-flop or waver in his convictions. Either you are or you're not. Either you're a leader or you're a leader based on, opportunity. So once again, is he dealing with a schema affliction? A schema that has been more or less impacted him from his past, that has more or less arrested his development as a man? I don't know. Are some of you guys dealing with a schema affliction to the point that you have compromised your masculinity, not only with men, but also with women, because you don't see yourself as having inherent worth or value? And as Bishop Charles E. Williams said, y'all ain't gonna talk to me. I know and you know that many times in these spaces it can be very political. And, I get it, certain things it's a time for all things, certain things you shouldn't say, it's not always necessary to say, it's just an understanding. I get that. But there was a lot of consternation around whether or not the brother represented the broader manosphere in a positive and in a masculine way. And as I said earlier, I respect Kevin Samuels highly. I love a lot of the work that he does. But I do see the dichotomy that some say that he did not more or less represent, the manosphere in a proper direction. And so we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation at some point, and we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some said, once again, he was playing chess and that he finessed Nicki Minaj. Some say that he did an okay job, but some say he took an epic L because he did not check her the way he checked other women when they are on his platform. So once again, how many of you guys have been complicit in violating your inner sanctum? How many, when you have the time to stand up and speak as men, you violate your inner sanctum as a man? Once again, we all can be guilty of it, including myself, because some will argue, I don't know what I would do or would have done in that situation. But then one will also argue based on the tenets of theology that when much is given, much is required. And the manner of leadership means you rise up to the occasion when, you're in the pressure cooker. You rise up to the occasion. You don't coy under adversity, but you rise up to the occasion. You stand firm in your identity. You use diplomacy in your pronostications about what you see in a person, and you don't waver in your convictions. You can be firm, fair, and speak the truth in love. And so the question remains is that was she checking him or challenging him to see, you better not say anything, Kevin? Was that what she was doing? I don't know. Or once again, was Kevin Samuels being brilliant because he is a Pisces, being duplicitous and malleable, and then he play his checkers correct? So that's the question that we got to have, guys, if we continue to have this conversation. Because we're going to shame the devil on today. I'm going to read through some of these comments real quick, and and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it, and I'm going to get to the message in a minute. T. Rose said that she believed is it a compromise or a strategy? I don't know, dear. Some would say both. Some will say both. Cortez Smith said, I think he's talking about her face being a 9. We talked about that. Chris said, exactly. I believe Nick is a 7, and the only one who would have broke you can't use 7 rule is Kevin Samuels, right? Thank you, Maurice. Maurice said you make a valid point. Thank you, brother, because I believe, guys, that we got to hold each other accountable. Remember, iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. Any man can be a cream puff and go along to get along, but I stand firmly in my convictions. I'm not that type of man. I'm a man's man. I respect all men. I bow to none. I tell you what I got to tell you to your face. I won't say it to you behind your back because that's what men do. Do I have to agree with all the people that I associate with? No. There are some good brothers that I love and respect. I don't agree with them 100%, but I do love them and respect them as men. But if you ask me a question, I'm not going to tap dance and go along to get along. I don't do that. That's beneath me as a man. If you ask me a question, I'm going to be brutally honest. So don't ask me the question. Will I be diplomatic and judicious in how I respond? Yes. But these kind of conversations must happen, guys, because the inner sanctum of masculinity becomes violated when we don't stand firm as men. And that can lead to a mental health pathology called the minimization of a man, which is a thinking error. All of this stuff ties in together, guys. All right, let me read through some of these super chats real quick. Thank you, guys. I'm going to finish reading these comments, and I'm going to read through the super chats. Maurice Cortez Smith said, I've seen so many women in America alone to give her an 8, but she's not ugly facially. Respect. Cortez said her body looks. That's funny. Maurice said he thinks he was smart about it. Well, yeah, I think he was smart too. I think he was smart about it. But some would say that he compromised even in being smart about it. He had the same veracity and ferocity that he did with average women. And that's been the point of great consternation. Some say, once again, Kevin was playing chess. He was very masterful in his decision-making process. Some say that Kevin took a major L, and some say Kevin was right in the middle. He did some things right, he did some things wrong. But only you guys can decide. And we're going to have that conversation a little later on. Top Gun said, Cruz not sold out. Business will always be business. He let his slide talking about telling ninjas to eat penis. Yeah, right. I agree with that. Top Gun. That was very disrespectful. We're going to get into it in a minute. No other woman would have cammed up and not got that work. Right, no doubt. And thank you, brother, for that $10.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right?
But part of being a man
got 5 on it.
Is being consistent. Part of being a leader is willing to speak truth to power even when the odds are against you. That's the servant leader. He doesn't waver in his convictions. I'm going to keep reading through some of these comments. Top Gun said, never trust a big button to smile. Right. Chris said, Zach and Top Gun, I think it was Miss Average at Best comment. He had a lot of love saying he's catching a flight. Either God is super on his side because he met up with Future the very next day. Yeah, he did. He did meet up with Future. You're right, Chris. I agree with you, brother. Shout out to the Ingram Experience. Salute, hot button topic today, the fire for your mind. No doubt, brother, it's definitely fire for your mind. Fire for your mind. The kosher. Because I want to more or less allow your cognitions to be awakened on this very critical conversation. Because as men, guys, many times we compromise our masculinity for fleeting power and pleasure. And it goes back to what William Glasser talked about. Power, fun, freedom, and survival can be good or it can be bad. And this is just a conversation. I'm not here to cast aspersions. I'm just having a conversation because I've heard different people say different things about this topic, and I want to address it from a clinical perspective as a man. A lot of black men in America are dealing with the minimization of their masculinity. They defer their power with other men and women because they don't see themselves as great. They don't see themselves as brilliant. They have low self-esteem, and many have what's called an arrested development. You can be chronologically a certain age, but your development from a psychosocial perspective can be arrested. And that's why we got to have these conversations. So once again, guys, share the content. If you have not donated, donate to Cash App $7Smalls. If you guys have not donated, donate to Cash App $7Smalls. All right. The Ingram Experience said he felt that Kevin took it easy on her. Yeah, I can see that. AM1 said the sheer fact that he was on her platform changed all the rules of engagement. I see that too, AM1. But some will argue that you can be judicious and respectful even on somebody else's platform, meaning you don't have to disrespect them, but you can be very judicious and you can be very poignant or more or less punctual in your responses without being disrespectful. Now, some will say, when I became a Roman, I spoke as the Romans. But then the question remains, are you compromising who you are as a person only to belong for that moment in time? And one also said that also has to be considered that he's trying to get in good with the music industry crowd. Yes, right. But then that's a good point, AM1. But then one will argue once again, are you sacrificing the greater good of the black manosphere for trying to become relevant with other mongrels? Because some would see Future as a Dusty. Does that go against the image of men projecting themselves in a positive light? We'll talk about it at some point. Okay, that's a good point. We're going to talk about the Prodigal Son 75. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. We're going to talk about it. We're going to come up at some point. But I have these conversations, guys, because what are you doing to fortify your inner sanctum as a man? What are you doing to, deal with that place or that holy place inside your head that no man can penetrate? Because every man shall have an inner sanctum. Every man shall have a non-compromising point that regardless if it's his friends, family, wife, girlfriend, or any. He said, I'm not going to compromise my position. Every man shall have an inner sanctum. That's the true virtue of masculinity. Because once again, watch this, manhood is hills and valleys. It's victories and failures. That's the epigenesis of manhood. It's not fixed. It's fluid. And it's ever-changing in my mind. And that's why we got to have these conversations. That he violated his inner sanctum to appease Cardi B. That he violated his inner sanctum to get power. That he violated his inner sanctum because he wanted to belong, just like some of you, just like me at times, because we all are guilty. See, remember, like Black Ram 313 said, this is therapy. We don't lie in therapy. And as a licensed therapist, it's important to be honest in these discussions. So what can we learn about integrity and the inner sanctum of a man when we are under pressure? How many of you men that are listening have violated your inner sanctum as a man when you were under pressure? Did you stand firm in your convictions when you were confronted with discourse or disagreements? Did you go along to get along so that you would not be isolated as a man? It takes a strong man to stand on his square. It takes a strong man to go against the grain. But as I said before in the past, that gold without fire would never become pure gold. I'm going to drop some fire for your mind. Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician. Gold without fire can never become pure gold. So part of manhood is men coming together, as you see the brothers in the background, and men holding one another accountable. Men speaking truth to power. Men being unapologetically masculine. But the question remains, can you be unapologetically masculine if your development has been arrested as a man? Can you be unapologetically masculine if you are still dealing with unconscious pathologies that you have not eradicated as a man? Can you be unapologetically masculine when you have not uncovered so that you can recover as a man? Can you be unapologetically masculine because you have a very low self-esteem and you don't have self-awareness to see the greatness and the brilliance of yourself as a man? We're going to have a conversation because once again, different people have different points on this discussion. But whether you agree yay, nay, or indifferent, the point remains is this. Many of you are guilty of more or less violating your inner sanctum as a man. I've done it myself as a man. That's why, I can't come and acclaim anything unless I be a hypocrite. Because holding myself accountable is the first step of holding you accountable. The gospel said before you judge another man, you must judge yourself, lest you be a hypocrite. And so I strive not to be a hypocrite. I'm not a perfect man by no means. I have my own idiosyncrasies that I got to work on through using self-awareness. But I strive to be very cogent in my pronouncements as a man. But what can we learn about integrity and inner sanctum of masculinity? Do we fold under power and pressure? Or do we stand firm in our convictions and be very judicious in our response as men? I'm going to continue to read through some of these comments, and then I'm going to critique. I'm going to critique this thing. I'm going to critique it. Impressive vibes. So OKC, that's a good point. Thank you, dear. I think that's a woman. Royce Jason, the most powerful thing he could have done was told Nicki Minaj she's a married woman, not part of this conversation. Excellent. I like that, Royce J. That's an excellent point. Futures using the opportunity to shame that dodo. Yeah, you might be right. I told you guys, that there will be saboteurs that will seek to usurp a movement. They don't want to see men empowered. They don't want to see us coming together as men having differences, but at the same time respecting one another. Every time men come together, there have always been Trojans in the midst of the movement to more or less derail it, like Judas and the Black Messiah. You saw it. There's going to always be a Judas in the midst waiting for the opportunity to derail a good movement that can more or less lead to the fortification of men for centuries and generations to come. I stand firm in my convictions as a man. I love to see men empowered. I love and the kosher clinician. It's the culmination of two. I'm a licensed clinical therapist, but also I believe in the universality of therapy. Therapy have a universality component that's tied to a concept called sharing information, but also it's tied to what's called a group catharsis, where men share their pain through pain. They share their pain through more or less talking about their pain, to say the least. So to the 51 that are watching, guys, get the likes up. Get the likes up. I need you guys to get the likes up. And I'm grateful for the 51 that are watching. If you have not shared the content, share this content. If you have not donated to the channel, please donate, because these shows are extremely, and I mean extremely time consuming. I'm going to start coming with members at some point. I'm going to get not only trying to give you guys better quality content, but also to the people that are consistently donating to the channel. Shout out to the Ingram Experience. Shout out to CGLA and a lot of other good brothers that are consistent in more or less contributing to this platform, but also consistent in more or less encouraging me on my journey to more or less liberating the minds of our men. The Ingram Experience said that after that conversation Nikki had with Lala, Kevin should have bought that heat. Right. AM1 saying, in my opinion, it's a bad idea that he's associated with any type of these trap rappers types. And it contradicts his overall message. Right. That's what a lot of people are saying. That's what some brothers are saying, to say the least. That's an excellent point, AM1. That's an excellent point. And see on 145, so I had to see how Nikki looks in the morning without makeup. That's the test of a woman's looks, right. And I can just tell you by looking at Nikki, Nikki is not a 9. She does have a round, pretty face, but Nikki by no means is a 9. There are women in other countries, and I've been to Brazil twice, that will put Nikki to shame. Nikki is not a 9. She's cute, but she's not a 9. And so some said that Kevin was capping. Shout out to Miss Parkers. How you doing, sweetie? Thank you, love. How are you doing, dear? AM1 said, yeah, any associations with Nikki or Futures are ill for his credibility. Good move if it's all about fame and money. Right, good move is about fame and money. That's why I said it's checkers if he was looking from a power position. I would say if he was looking from a power position to advance his career as a man, I would say kudos to you, Kevin. That was a power move. I don't knock the brother for that. If he's trying to advance his own cause and advance his career, I ain't mad at you. But Jesus says you can't serve two masters. Either you're going to love one or you're going to hate the other. You can't serve two masters. Some are saying that you can't say that you're a proponent for masculinity in the manosphere, while on the flip side, you're associating with people that don't more or less play a role in the evolution of masculinity. And that's the great conundrum. But we're going to have a very fair and a very poignant discussion about it. Because once again, what can we learn about integrity in the inner sanctum of masculinity? And I'm going to talk about, guys, the 7 steps or the 7 rules for fortifying your inner sanctum or keeping your inner sanctum strong as a man. Because we got to have these conversations. Elisa Del Rosario said maybe it was a strategic in checkers or chess when you strike the opportunity to present itself. In chess, you wait, but I could be wrong. Well, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Because, like I said, some felt that he did the right thing, and some felt that he was wrong. MC Recovering Wellness said, Nikki pick up that mantle white knight syndrome. Nikki husband, right. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. The Ingram experience said, I don't know a woman could get a beauty rating with surgically enhanced lower body parts. I totally agree. Round hips or a corpulent behind or a perky breast, she's not a 9. You got to look at the whole package, not just. This can't be a 9. I would say she's a strong 6.5 or 7, though. I think she's attractive, but she's not a 9, in my opinion. This is my own personal opinion. Cedric Carson said that, man, look, Kevin couldn't do anything without some sort of hate. People say he bashed women, so he didn't bash Nikki. Now people saying he should have came at her the same way he did at Schema. Man, I hate the internet. I respect your point, Cedric. That's a fair point. But some think he was also pandering, Cedric, and you may agree or disagree, but we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to drop the link at some point because this is going to be a free-for-all. But once again, this is talking about, guys, the inner sanctum of masculinity. I'm going to talk about what are 7 rules for fortifying your inner sanctum as a man. What are the 7 rules for fortifying or making your inner sanctum as a man become strong? One is we all men must be self-aware at all times. We all men must be self-aware at all times. It's paramount that we become self-aware at all times. That's one of the first steps in the inner sanctum of fortifying your sanctum as a man. The second step is a man that we got to set ironclad boundaries and we got to set standards. The gospel says that heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will stand forever. And that was part of what the Levites talked about. The Ark of the Covenant was the presence of God. You got to have a masculine presence that no man can penetrate. No woman can penetrate. Some call it standing on your square. You got to establish an identity. As I said again, some are dealing with a schema affliction. But you can't establish an identity if you're more or less dealing with things from your past that you have not uncovered or dealt with. Many people minimize the importance of mental health. But some of you are walking time bombs. Some of you are walking zombies. Some of you are dealing with unconscious pathologies that render you helpless as a human being. And you sacrifice the importance of your integrity as a man because you have not uncovered so that you can recover. That's why we have these conversations. And we live in a time where it's more easier to go with the crowd instead of going against the grain as a man. But I'll say this to you guys, I've always went against the grain, not because I wanted to, but because part of my inner sanctum as a man says you got to do it. And it's not easy. It's a very lonely road, but it makes you stronger in the end. But number 3, you got to establish your identity as a man. You got to reflect on your purpose as a man. Did Kevin reflect on his purpose? Are you reflecting on your purpose? Did he reflect on the purpose of the greater manosphere? That some would say, this is a conversation. You have to be accountable for your decisions. And you got to have others hold you accountable. That's how you fortify, guys, your inner sanctum as a man. And then you got to write the vision and you got to make it plain. I'm going to say it again. You got to write the vision and make it plain. And as Bishop Charles E. Williams said in the past, y'all ain't going to talk to me. And then you got to always reflect on why you should fortify your inner sanctum as a man. Because they're going to be people, they're going to be hyenas, they're going to come and try you and test you and to get you off your square. They're going to try to get you to compromise your position as a man because they see the light and the king in you. And I've been there. For the most part, I've won it, but there are times I've failed as well. So this is going to be a very cogent and a very poignant conversation, because manhood, once again, is about holding each other accountable. How many are willing to speak truth to power? Knowing that he was pandering. Pandering is for personal gain. Right. That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. That pandering, once again, is for personal gain, but it's not for the broader evolution of masculinity or heteronormative masculinity. And that's been the concern of so many men in these spaces when they come together. Are the men that we're dealing with, are they genuine? And I'm not saying K. Sam is genuine or not. I don't know. I don't know the brother. I do respect his position. He speaks a lot of great points. Kevin speaks a lot of good points. Kevin says a lot of good things. But the question remains, once again, did Kevin get a major L? Did Kevin compromise his inner sanctum? Did Kevin let Nicki Minaj disrespect men? Or did Kevin more or less violate him from a personal perspective, but also, he respected the manosphere? And we're going to have a conversation once again. Ms. Parker back to base said, that's what I was thinking. The Ingram experience, right. AM, you can't be a nut. MC Wellens in recovery said this. He said, we say recovery when you don't know what okay. We all rejected Kevin. Respected Kevin. That's fair. But then some will argue, why is she in our space, or why is she in the man's space, or why even associate with people they have a different position. But that's a conversation that we're going to talk about.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
$10. Thank you, sir.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Cedric Carter said Nikki is far from the average woman. People know that. Plus, she's actually a wife, something a lot of black women would never be. That's true too, brother. Thank you, AL1, for the $5 super sticker, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother. I really appreciate that. Cedric Carter said, that's why I don't have a social media. People going to say whatever and whenever and have their opinions. Ain't nothing a real one can do. I respect that, Cedric, no doubt. Mr. Albert says, kind of off topic, did you hear that they're trying to remake the movie The Color Purple? No, I didn't hear it, brother. But I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all in these crazy times that we live in. That's why, once again, guys, you got to fortify your inner sanctum as a man. Be aware. Set boundaries. Establish your identity as a man. Reflect on your purpose. Be accountable. Write the vision. Make it plain. And then once again, you reflect again. Cedric said, I don't think Nick is a dress size 4. I would say a 6 or 8 due to the baby weight. These women need to start wearing standard dresses instead of these fitted yoga-looking dresses, no doubt. The Ingram experience says Cedric Carson, masculine men and non-feminine supporters never thought he bashed women. Only he got hate from simps and feminists. I agree, brother. Shout out to my dear sister Alicia Delasario. Thank you, dear, for that $15 super sticker.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Well, Alicia said, going against the grain is never easy. Maybe that's why I like this platform so much. You funny. I'm going to have to get the fruit of Islam to come and protect me, though. But I'm not trying to do anything that cause any disrespect. I'm just having to have a conversation because I've been studying this, this whole thing for weeks, and I'm hearing different sides, and I'm looking at do what I call, my own impressions as a therapist. And I'm trying to have a conversation, and I want to hear what you men are saying because, everybody have their own opinion. Cedric said, man, Kevin's the reason these conversations didn't have. Most men were walking on eggshells until he came along. He brought the balance back to the game, period, facts. I respect that, brother. All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to pull up the comments. I'm going to pull up that response that Kevin did, and I'm going to critique it. And I want you guys to take notes. I want you guys to take notes. I want you guys to take notes. And I want you guys to tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about this whole fiasco, all right? And I'm going to critique it while I look at it. So this is fair use. This is for education purposes only. This is fair use, and this is a critique, all right? So we're going to have a conversation about this Nicki Minaj and the things that he did right and the things that some would say that he did wrong. Hold tight. Hold tight.
Yes. You see, let me tell you why.
Are we might need to get 911 over there or something? My bad.
Let me tell you. You see, let me tell you why I love the universe, and I am a firm believer of the universe.
Okay.
Listen, I wanted to get on and talk to you for a very long time.
Is that right?
That's very right.
What we got?
So I want to know what you gotta, let's have this real talk. Let's have this real talk. Because I know a lot of times when people will speak to you, it's like they trying to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you call somebody trying to be funny, yes, I feel if you call somebody trying to be funny, then don't be mad at what you get. If you call somebody.
And I agree with you, Green Beret Media. I don't believe it was worth going on her platform because it is mostly feminist-minded women over there. She won't change those kind of women's mind, right? They're counterintuitive because Kevin's position is dealing with traditional women, not modern women. That's always been the greatest antithesis to his argument. It's dealing with modern women. Most of the women in Nicki's circle are not traditional women. They are modern women. Keep listening.
And you're really trying to, sincerely ask questions or get information or chat, then that's different. So I want to talk to you.
Okay. What are we talking about?
Well, what do you rate me?
Is that what we're starting off with?
Yeah.
Do you think the men rate women?
No, I thought, because isn't that what you do?
What have you seen in my content? Have you just seen like the clips?
Yeah. I think I always see people calling you and then you tell them, you ain't no such and such. You lying to yourself. You ain't this,
What I typically don't do is I don't typically rank people. I ask them if they rank themselves. I usually ask these questions.
So let's start it that way.
Yeah. How tall are you?
I'm 5'3".
Dress size?
My dress size?
Mm-hmm.
Bender Don said, my dress size? That's a good question. I guess a 4?
All right. And on a scale from 1 to 10, you can't use 7. What would you rank yourself? Fresh face out of the shower, just you.
Yeah.
That's how I always ask the question.
7.
Can't use 7. That's why 7 is the most common answer.
Really?
It's the default answer for most people because they don't want to go too high, they don't want to go too low.
And I don't know if Nicki is on some damn jungle juice, but you look at that crazy. Look at her eyes, man. Look at that look on Nicki's eyes. Look at her eyes. Her eyes look very wild. Her eyes look wild and bewildered. And I don't know if Nicki. I think Nicki was testing Kevin. I think a 7 is fair for Nicki, even with a surgically enhanced body. She's not an ugly woman. She's cute, but she's definitely not a 9. But look at her face, guys. Look at those eyes. Look like she's drinking some jungle juice. Look at her.
Well, no. It ain't a default answer for me.
Well, let's see. I would give you a 9. I would give you a 9 because you have the facial symmetry and you get additional points for eyes. Full lips. See,
and this is where people lost it. This is where people lost it. They felt like Kevin was capping here. And so some feel that Kevin was capping here. Some say, Kevin, you capping, brother. Nicki's not a 9. But, it's interpretive. It's all by opinion. But this is where people felt like he was capping. and where he lost it. I want you guys to take notes and tell me what you think.
It's not. I'm an actual image consultant. And
Oh.
I'm sure you dealt with a lot of people who take your pictures and stuff and so forth. You have a symmetrical face. And so it's much more based upon facial symmetry. It's not based on European beauty standards or anything like that. It's much more based upon what babies, animals, human beings have evolved to find attractive.
Wow.
You get additional points because we have evolved to find more slanted eyes somewhat attractive, especially when they're not on Asian.
Wow. Wow.
But that's not what gets translated. Most of the time, people take my clips and cut it down to something that's going to make a viral moment. It's going to start a conversation. Take the good with the bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you seen anything else that I do?
I saw one time when you checked this lady for, I guess it was a white lady or a Hispanic lady, and you was like, oh, you're not going to come on this show and talk down on Black women. That's what the fuck you're not going to do.
Yeah.
And so, again, that was a clip. I didn't see the context, really, but.
Well, I get a rap of hating Black women. And it's far from that. I mean, there are over 50 Black women who report that they've.
Now, I agree with Kevin on that. I don't think Kevin hates Black women. I think Kevin does have a desire to see Black women do well and get married and be happy. Kevin is a Pisces, so he's an empath. And so I think he does have a heart and a love to see our women do better and get a husband. I really believe that with all my heart. I think he's very genuine with that. And so I think in that aspect, Kevin is very genuine. Keep listening.
Gotten married as a result of watching my content in the last year.
Really?
It's on my Instagram. I actually had a young sister just post up saying, hey, as a result of you, I snatched the ring. I just actually posted a brother who was about to move to the Dominican Republic, and he found his wife in my Facebook group. Like 12 couples have gotten married in there. But that stuff doesn't get publicized. But when I'm talking about relationships, I'm talking about men and women, but because I'm Black, I'm talking about us. And from time to time, I would bring stuff in, and then a lot of times sisters would say, well, men, when they get to a certain level, they only want white women or this or that. So I let women from other races come in. I'm like, okay, well, can you learn anything from them? What would you teach them? And the one woman came in and she thought she was going to do what I did to Black women. I'm like, hold on, wait. Now, we can talk this way, but Karen, you sit your ass down over there. Because I don't play that. I wouldn't let, despite popular opinion, I love my mother, I love my daughter, but we do have to have a family conversation. And what's starting to happen more is actually we're starting to have more conversations about this. It ain't comfortable, but we're starting to see progress.
Well,
people believe that you can be diplomatic, but you can be genuine at the same time. And so for some of the comments, some of the brothers felt like Kevin was capping about calling Nikki a 9. Once again, Nikki is not a 9. She's definitely not a 9. She's attractive. She can be very sexy at times. She definitely have a sex appeal. But face symmetry or not, I look at the whole body. Nikki's not a 9. But keep listening.
let me ask you this just outright then. Why do successful Black men date outside of their race?
Well, I would say this. When I look at men, I split them up. Guys that I consider to be in the industry, music, entertainment, athletics, and then guys on the business side. Okay. Business side, because I come from that side. But more often than not, Black men want to be with Black women. We still marry. 85% of Black men are married to Black women.
Oh.
When I have my guys come to me, even after they got themselves together, like Dennis Furling, the guy who just moved, he found his Black wife in my group. Black men want to be with them. The problem is, let's be honest.
And shout out to Dennis. Dennis got a very attractive wife to be. Shout out to that brother. Him and I have talked before in the past. I respect Dennis. He got a very attractive wife to be in the future. So shout out to that brother.
In my lifetime, we weren't really raised to learn how to get along with one another. We can kick it, we can hook up, but can we work together long term. And I mean, you're married now, right? Okay, relationship is a skill set. It's different than dating in short term. We really want to talk that kind of stuff. And what successful people who are doing good in their professional life want to fail in their personal life. And in the Black community in particular, when we fail in our personal lives, we pay a huge penalty because so few of us get married. It's almost like we like to see people's marriages fall, but we need more of those things in order to build whatever we're going to be, because people may not like my method, but I want to see more Black men who want Black wives get with Black women. And that's the outcome we're getting. It ain't pretty, though. Sometimes it ain't pretty.
Can I say something real quick? Black women, can y'all?
And I agree with Chris. What Nikki is about to say was very disrespectful. I believe if Nikki would have been an average woman, and I know Kevin was on her platform, so I know he was using diplomacy, and I respect the man for respecting her platform. But I believe that if Nikki was on Kevin's platform, even if Kevin was on someone else's platform that was a lower stature, I think Kevin would have dug in their ass, in my opinion. Chris said not even tripping. The rating was not the issue, honestly, but they eat a penis comment, the entire space. It was allowed and not even a professional cleanup. And I think that's what a lot of men are saying. And so we're going to talk about it.
Can we stop talking about if these niggas want us or not? Excuse me, Kevin, this is not, I'm talking to Black women real quick. Can we stop posting all day on TikTok? Because I newly went to TikTok and I just kept seeing this. Mm-hmm. Black women, can we stop talking about if these successful Black men want us or not? Mm-hmm. Like, can we just focus on us and
see, that's where Nicki Minaj is woefully wrong. That's the great nemesis of being a modern woman. If you want to be a modern woman and focus on yourself and your career, I have no problem with that. Do you. Like they say, do you, boo. Don't have a problem with a woman focusing on her career. Don't have a woman focusing on herself. But I think what Kevin more or less supports is traditional family and traditional values. And so I think this could have been a check-in moment. He could have said, well, yeah, Nick, I hear you, but I disagree with you. If a woman wants to be married to a quality man, then she needs to focus on what that man wants instead of focusing on herself, because men are the prize catchers. One of the things, guys, that so many men struggle with as it relates to their inner sanctum as a man is that they don't realize they have the power to determine that they are the prize catcher. Many men defer power in relationships and they give it to the women because they don't have a high self-esteem. And that's why I did this show, because many of you men have compromised your inner sanctum as a man. And so I think this was a point where Kevin could have checked and said, respectfully, Nick, I hear you, but nah, you're wrong. Because women that want to get married do need to know what a man wants and worry about what a man wants. Women 40, 50, 60 years ago and women in other cultures understand that. So I do see his point, but this is a point where I feel like he should have checked it.
Be successful, and then we go out there and we decide who the fuck we want. Because what I've been seeing is, I feel like I've been seeing men using that as an opportunity because they've been hurt and somebody done and they've been using it as a way to come out and lash out and poke fun at Black women and use it as a way to feel like they somebody or they something. Or so for all you niggas that's doing that on TikTok or wherever the fuck y'all at, eat a dick, go away. Nobody gives a shit about you. And I want Black women to stop fucking posting about whether or not y'all.
Right. It was an epic fail here. This was an epic fail where she could have been checked in a respectful way, because Kevin will check you. And some feel that was an epic fail. She should have been checked, because what she did, she minimized the importance of men and their rights at the behest of what women want. It's never an issue where women say men are broke, men are dusty, men have small penises, men don't have anything. No one says anything. But when men start demanding what they want because they're the prize catchers, then it's a problem. Keep listening.
I want Black women or not, okay? Well, I want Black women just to focus on themselves, be successful, and then you go out there and you decide the trajectory of your life. Okay?
Well, here's the thing.
And look at the eyes, guys. Look at her eyes, that masculine, that attitude. Look at her. I don't know if she's crazy. I don't know if she was drinking that night, but she personifies a lot of things that Kevin actually talked about. The attitude, even though she was fair in some points, but look at her face, guys. Look at the eyes, the rolling of the eyes. I mean, weird stuff. She's doing weird stuff with her eyes, almost to the point that there's some disgust or disdain. I don't know if she was drinking that night or she was on some drugs, but she really showed herself, in my opinion. She was disrespectful, in my opinion. Not all the way through the show, but at some point she was very disrespectful. But that's my opinion.
There's a lot of hurt on both sides.
And I agree with Kevin on that.
And especially in the Black community.
I think there is a lot of hurt on both sides, men and women. But we got to be fair in our pronouncements to hold both sides accountable.
We don't really do a lot with counseling, therapy. I recommend therapy.
And just like Kevin recommends therapy, I am a licensed therapist. I went to one of the greatest schools in the country. And I have these conversations because I want to see men win. Because I'm a firm believer that when men are empowered, that they can empower our women. But if men are not empowered, then how can you empower your women? If men are constantly deferring their power, how can they demand power? And in clinical therapy, behavioral modifications, when you benefit, and she benefits. But she's constantly benefiting at your expense, and that's an issue. And that's an issue that a lot of Western men struggle with.
Often, because we got a lot of stuff individually that we want to deal with. And marriage and relationships are not for everybody. And I'm just ultimately I ask people, what do you want? What do you want? And what are you prepared to do to get what you want? And are you willing to pay that cost? It's really the conversation, but it always gets kind of whittled down. But at the end of the day, what we are seeing is, especially if you're under 30, it's harder for guys today under 30 than it was from 50 years ago, because you can't take care of a family on out high school or just coming out. So
Now, I agree with Kevin on that. I do agree with him on that. It's a lot harder for men to take care of families now. My dad took care of a family of 4 back in the 70s, making $6.30 an hour. That was back in the 70s. We got a brick home. There was $13,000 back in 71, over 1,000 square feet, almost 1,300 square feet back in the 70s. You can't get a house with $13,000 now. You can't even give a nice house for $150,000 now in certain parts of the world. But you guys are making some good comments, very good comments. We're going to talk about it. But Yaziz made a very good point. I want you guys to tell me what y'all think. Yaziz said exactly, Awesome Dre. Kevin knew what he was doing. She had 1 million followers, and he was doing this to up his brand with her audience. That's a good point. What do you guys think? I think that's a good point, Yaziz.
And I just had men's week, and I told guys, look, while you're under 30, work on getting yourself together.
I agree, Cortez.
Because like it or not, you're really not in a position like you should be to be able to work with, lead, do anything like that. And you see the hurt on both sides, because a lot of times people will use these talking points to go at and poke women over here, but that's not what's going on right now. This year, we're past the sound. I mean, we still laugh. We still do all that stuff. We're talking about self-awareness and moving the needle. I'm in LA tomorrow talking with a famous sexologist, a womanist, feminist, to talk about things that I may not, that people on my side.
Now, here's the question. Some will argue. Now, if he was talking to a sexologist, that's one thing, but some will argue, why would you be talking to a feminist about male rights or male issues, or even issues pertaining to masculinity? Because they're antithetical. You should never talk to a female therapist that's a feminist, because most female therapists that are feminists are fed through what's called the feminist theory lens. I'm a black male therapist, believe in male empowerment, similar to what Dr. Tia Son Johnson called a masculinist. Even though I don't necessarily identify as a masculinist, I do believe through that concept of male empowerment and also helping men become the better versions of themselves. So I was lost when Kevin said that he would talk to a woman that's a sexologist or a feminist. It's almost like at that point, was he compromising? Was he compromising based on what Yaziz was saying to get followers? So that's something to think about. Keep listening.
I may not understand to further open the conversation up, because that's what we have to get to. We got to end up, for whoever want to be involved with whoever, we got to end up having a better conversation, because while we're separate, fighting, everybody else just eats off of us. That's really what it looks like. So, but,
okay, Kevin. So since we no, we got to get down to the business, chat.
Go ahead.
Now, do you think a man can have sex 3 times a night for the rest of his life?
Most guys can't.
They can't?
Not for the rest of his life, no.
Well, how many times?
Now, guys, is Nikki a little off or slow? What kind of question is that? No man can have sex 3 times a day for the rest of his life. In his younger years, perhaps, a man's sex drive still can be high. So I agree with Kevin here. And, listen, men love sex. We would love to do it, but as a man is getting older, there's no way in hell, unless he's a very healthy man, got good genetics, that he's going to be having sex 3 times a day at 70 years old. That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Some men are in their 40s and 50s now can barely get one. So, I don't know if Nikki was on something that night, drinking or was on drugs, but she was acting weird.
They going to be able to do it.
It's how much he's working. It's how much he's working. That's why I say it's different on.
But wait,
No,
listen,
no.
Listen, hold on. How many times should a man expect to have sex? What is, in your opinion, how many times should a woman give their man sex a week?
A week?
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, guys, we know that many men are in sexless marriages. Many men are in very sexless marriages. I think sexual compatibility is very important, but many men complain that after they get married, women pull the mask off. They don't have the same enthusiasm for sex. I think most men, and I agree with Kevin on this perspective, that if you can get sex at least 2 to 3 times a week, that's a fairly healthy sexual relationship. I think the average man is healthy. Whether he's in his 30s or 40s or 50s, will like it at least once a day if he can get it up, and if he's actually healthy. But, some men are not healthy. They have unresolved health issues. But I think a healthy man, as long as he's healthy, he's getting his rest, would love to have sex every day if he's sexually attracted to that woman. But once again, men do tend to like, in general, younger women. A man wants his woman to stay the same way she looked when he first got her. So it's for conversation. Keep listening.
I'm a fan of the as often as he wants it.
No, hold on.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. You look at, like I said, I look at guys, most guys I'm talking to are working 10, 12-hour days. Bernie Mac said it, I'm going to come home and give you 50 strokes. You count them if you ain't got time. Most dudes trying to walk around like they porn stars. Look at, man, get good at foreplay, eat some pussy, and get on. Because we going to have all that time. You get old, our back hurt, our hips out.
Oh, no.
When you get older, but I think a healthy sex life 2 to 3 times a week is what most people are doing because they got kids.
Yes, no, I understand.
But when you're single, no kids, whenever you want to.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Ms. Parker, 100%. She definitely run that relationship. And Lulu Bing said some good points too. Lulu, she would have never got a masculine man that would have checked her. Once you can tell behind that veneer, she has some masculine energy. And a lot of times women like Nicki Minaj will settle for jailbirds or lower end dudes because they can control them. But masculine dudes, they got money and status, they'll check that real fast. And no man in his right mind has the time to deal with a woman like Nicki Minaj.
Well,
She's like, I don't know about that one.
No, I understand because yes, things change when you have to be looking at your baby and a lot of I get it. I totally get it. But
that's a great point, Ingram. You made an excellent point. Listen to her low quality conversation using N-word profanity. She gets checked and she's not Nikki. And I agree with that. That's why I think some are saying that Kevin had some good points in this discussion, but he let off the hook. And some would say that he did it because he was trying to be respectful. Some think he was doing it because he was trying to advance his own cause. But we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to talk about it. Keep listening.
Let me ask you something. do men really want, because I was having this discussion 2 days ago, do men really want a woman to be all up under them? Like all like, oh baby, hi, yeah, ooh, or do they just say they want that, and when they want that, and when they get it, they be like, because I feel like me being mean is what, yeah.
The late great Patrice O'Neal said it the best. We want you around, but not around. He made a comedy bit where he said, we want you in the house, kind of like around the corner in the vent somewhere. We kind of want you to be like a cat. You call a cat's name, hey, babe. Okay, you there, cool. We just want to know you in touching distance. That's really all we, because we really
and I feel like I'm like a man. I feel like I'm, you know, a lot of people throughout my life would tell me that I'm like a man, because I remember people would tell me I shouldn't expect as a woman to have a climax every time I do it, right? Like Hilton. And I said, excuse me, are you out of your fucking mind? Why wouldn't I want to climax every time I have intercourse, just like you want to climax when you have intercourse? And I was accused of being like a man, not in my, you know, this is years ago, and I knew that wasn't gonna work, child, because it's not only about you.
Well,
you think about that.
Well, so when I go to LA, I'll be talking to sexologists. You know, Shamboury. There's a lot that men don't understand about sexuality. Most guys, you ask them what the Kama Sutra is, they don't know what it is. They don't know anything about tantric sex. They don't even know that. You couldn't even show them the anatomy of a vagina, and they can understand the parts. Just weren't taught. So, and you know, if you know what you're doing, yes, you should have as much orgasm. You should. You're multi-orgasmic. You can have more than we can.
That's right.
So the point is that I think that was part of the purpose of going down there, to have this conversation, because women's sexuality is so misunderstood by men.
Mm.
So a lot of guys make comments about women in not knowing, and they make decisions based on women. And I say ultimately this: if you ain't getting married, what the fuck you care about a woman's body count and who she fucking okay? If you ain't gonna take ownership of it, and if it's yours, you need to learn what to do.
Mm.
Because yeah.
Well, if I was a man, I would still care about who a woman is fucking. Just
safety, as long as it's clean. I'm talking about, there are guys who worry about things. Here's the thing: there's ownership, and then there's dating.
Well, listen, some guys agree and disagree with that. Some guys see it like this, and they're just having fun. They're not going to take a woman serious. Then most guys probably don't care about a body count. But if a man is going to take her serious and make her his wife for the future, or a serious girlfriend, trust and believe he does care. So I agree with Kevin on part, but I think most guys care. Even Nikki agrees with that. But keep listening.
We do a lot to disqualify one another. And we got enough stuff already disqualifying us.
Oh, right. To put women down.
Yeah, I mean, or to discount men too. And I'm like, well, in the context of a relationship, it's different than people who are out here just hooking up. If you're gonna just be out here hooking up, you need to be. I would assume you would want to have a good sexual reputation. You want to be a dead lay or a weak fuck. That's not a good look.
No.
People are like, I'm so lost.
No, I'm not lost.
No, I'm talking about people in the comments.
I want to put it on the person. I don't give a shit.
Well, yeah, I've seen the videos. I heard. What were you talking about? The blood. What is a blood? What is that?
Blood clot?
I'm serious. I know. What is that?
No, it's just a term that my family, my Jamaican people who I love very much, it's just a curse word that they use. Like with a blood clot, you deal with pussy. You understand? So that.
All right, I've heard that before. I'm like, I didn't know if it was a curse word or what. All right, cool. But good to be on here with you. You got any other questions? Because I got to get packed.
Gotta finish talking to my people, but I want to tell you that I appreciate you joining me tonight.
Appreciate it.
And I don't want to, and to everybody that's wanting me to to diss this gentleman or anything. I'm not going to do anything because I don't have proper information, and I don't do shit to get attention or to get clicks or to do no clown shit. If I hear something and I understand the context and Kevin and I wants to talk, then we'll talk. But I'm not just here to diss nobody. So
Appreciate
Kevin,
it. If I say some shit you don't like, feel free to talk about it.
I will. Okay.
Will.
Kevin, we gonna have to have you on Queen Radio in a month or two, okay?
Let's do it.
All right. Take care.
All right. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to drop the link. Let's have a conversation. Once again, this is not an attack on Kevin Samuels. It's just having a conversation because I've studied this topic for a while, and I've heard different sides from different men. Some say that, it was a power move. He was playing chess. And I would say he did a brilliant job if that's what he was doing. Some would say he did not check her enough like he did or the women. And some say he was right in the middle. So I'm going to drop the link. Guys, if you have not donated to the 70 that are watching, please donate to $7 Smalls. Please share the content. As we're about to have a powerful discussion, I want the brothers to come on and let's talk about it because the Manhood Chronicles is a part of what I try to do to empower the brotherhood. So let's have a conversation. I'm going to drop the link. You guys tell me what you think. Do you feel like he compromised? Or do you feel like he was right on? Many people have had their own points. It's caused a split in the greater manosphere. Even the guys who are not part of the manosphere, they have their own consternation about it. But as I said before earlier, I like Kevin. Kevin does some good things. I respect the brother. He's very polished. He's very cogent and clear in his conversation. But once again, as I said about the Manhood Chronicles, it's a place where as men, we don't agree on all things. But we do come together as allies, only to go away when the crisis is over. So the link has been dropped. Let's have a conversation. I want somebody to come on. Will you come on, please, cam up? I would love to hear from the Ingram experience. Go check out that brother. He always add clarity. Yeah, that's my man, Yaziz. Yaziz, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing wonderful,
All right,
yeah.
All right. What would you like to add to this conversation about this whole Kevin Samuels fiasco? But also, as it relates, Yaziz, to the inner sanctum of masculinity, do you feel like in this situation that Kevin compromised his masculinity or his inner sanctum as a man? And I'm going to let you more or less dissect it and break it down. In this situation.
Sorry about that, Coach. I'm having I couldn't even hear it clearly. I'm having that. But let me just explain this from what I saw.
Go ahead, brother. I can't hear you. All right, Yaziz, I can't hear you, brother. I can't hear you. All right, Ingram, until Yaziz gets his mic together, go ahead and speak on it, Ingram. What do you think about this whole conversation as we talk about the inner sanctum of masculinity and where we are all at a crossroad many times where we get tempted not to stand on our square as men? What would you want to add to this conversation, Ingram, about the inner sanctum of masculinity and your take on this whole Kevin Samuels fiasco? Go ahead, brother.
I like Kevin myself, but I understand that he has to make certain business decisions in terms of his response in dealing with Nikki.
Right.
But you got to be careful. Just like the church sold itself for money and diluted the message, there's a greater purpose and a greater purpose than just, the thing about it is Nikki probably should have got checked a couple of times. Right. And I totally disagree with Kevin in terms of the body count. And when he said that if you're not looking to be married, why does a woman's body count matter? A woman's body count matters. If she wants you to kiss her or go downtown and some guys just shot a shot on her face or shot a shot in her mouth or 30 guys have shot their loads inside of her, and then you're going to put your mouth on there, I think you're a disgusting SOB in my opinion. I keep it real. I don't hold it back because that's the reality of life. You're a nasty dude if you don't care about a woman's body count and history.
I agree.
What are you kissing and what are you sucking on? You know what I mean?
What I say, I have to say this, Ingram. If it depends on the man's experience, right? And I
Right.
can just go by my own experience. When I dealt with a woman that I never thought about marrying, because you
Right.
always had women that were into you, right?
Right.
And the women that were into you, they probably didn't look too good, but it's
Right.
like because you're younger, you're in your teenage years, you're in your 20s, you're like, you know what? Let me just take it to the room and do this real quick with her. That woman, you don't care what her body count is. You don't even care what she got going on in her life. You're only there for yourself. Remember this. Women are fake an orgasm to keep a man, but a man will fake a whole relationship to keep an orgasm.
I totally agree, brother. But here's the thing, me, I'm a former Division I athlete. I've been an athlete all of my life. Okay, I've dealt with many women, and what I'm saying to you is this: if you're going to just take a broad in the back room and have sex with her, that's cool. But you're not kissing her. You're not worried about her satisfaction. What
Exactly.
they're talking about her satisfaction, and Nikki's talking about her getting her pleasure.
Understood.
And what happens then is, if you're not, I disagree with Kevin. I'm telling something about Kevin. Let me tell you something about me, first of all. Well, no, I mean, I'm being unrespectful. I'm one of those dudes that just don't give a damn. I call it like how it is, because even when Kevin's wrong, I'll call Kevin ass out right now. I don't have no time for that dude. If he's going to be simping for the money, I understand. It's just business. But the reality of life is this: if you putting your lips on these broads and you don't know where they've been, you better put yourself into a body condom.
Yeah, but
or something.
That's true. But think about this. Think about this. The women that you don't desire, there's things you won't do regardless. You won't. It's like women, the most of the satisfaction come mentally. It comes from them.
Right.
They got to know in their mind first before they can even go there. The women you're not into, there's certain things you won't do. There's rules to it, especially for my generation.
I totally agree.
Going down. So they still will get the satisfaction, but it's based on
I agree,
body.
brother.
But body count does not matter if you don't think that you want to be with her long term and think about her as family and taking care of her, etc. Body count does not matter.
Yeah, it does matter to a certain extent. It doesn't matter, but it does. Here's why it doesn't matter: because you also can consider what type of dudes have access to this woman. Because if you break that condom, you might as well just take your ass onto the hospital.
True indeed.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to also consider body count in terms of the frequency of dude that has access. But in terms of body count, if you're just trying to turn over a broad and move on, that's one thing. Well, you're not kissing her, you're not touching her in any intimate type way and exposing your body to whatever. But if you're talking about, you got to look at what type of dude she always messed with too.
True.
So you can get a chick that has high body count, but she may have a higher frequency of dude that she messes with. So what I'm saying is it does matter in those regards. So
I understand what the point you're making. That is true,
what I mean?
because when you see a girl and you think that she's a street girl, you're not going to want to do nothing with that unless you're that desperate sexually. And you're gonna prejudge. You're gonna prejudge if they have that type of body count or not based on how they project the image to you. But if you're not that interested in them, but they don't have a perceived body count issue like that, in most cases, men in general, I don't think would actually do the calculation themselves. Now, if it's somebody you're into, you're taking them on a date, you're having a conversation, at that point, body count matters, because you don't want to show up to any cookout or any barbecue and everybody's like, oh, he's with her. So I do understand what you're saying. You're correct. Body count always matters to a man regardless. It does. You're right.
Right. Go ahead, Ingram.
No, but that's just my point with Kev. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I like Kev, but my thing is about, at the end of the day, men have, like, I don't agree with Kev about the marriage thing either. I don't agree with that, because if anybody that's not talking about changes to the legal system in terms of divorce law, alimony, child support, child custody, and those are structural issues that have nothing to, those are government empowerment issues that have nothing to do with marriage or whatever. The idea that if you're this high value man, if you lose it all, you can just build it back again tomorrow or whatever. I'm not about that. I'm trying to keep my stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to work another 20 years to build it back.
No,
so I don't agree with it.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
So I disagree with Kev on that point too. You know what I mean? I'm not, I have my own mind in terms of, like, I've never been sheep. I'll always, I'll correct these dudes when they come off sideways talking certain things. So I fundamentally disagree with Kev about that, because if you're talking about true intimacy, you better have monogamy, because you break a condom out here in these streets, like I said, just go ahead and take your ass onto the hospital. You know, just march on down, baby.
Let me read out this super sticker real quick by James Turner. Shout out to my homie James Turner for always sponsoring the stream. I love James Turner, good brother. James Turner said, "Kosher, I kind of think Kevin knows that Nikki has a lot of influence with young and old girls. Perhaps he needs to be careful." And he was giggling like a little schoolgirl, right? And that's what a lot of people.
It's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
You know, it was a chess.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Yeah. And so, and that's what a lot of people feel like, man. You know, I'm not mad at the brother, you know, for trying to advance his own program. But I think what guys are saying, why would you align yourself up? Why would you violate your inner sanctum for fleeting pleasure? Remember, guys, I told you before in the past, the Glasser talked about power, fun, freedom, survival, and belonging. Could it be argued that he compromised for power and belonging? And listen, a lot of men can be tempted. A lot of men will say, well, I wouldn't do that, but you don't know what you would do if you were in that situation too. Yes, now, sir. I know what I would do because I know myself as a man. I probably would have said, nah, I disagree with you. I would have been respectful, but I think I would have spoke up because I've done it before in the past. And I probably would have lost some fans, but I think I would have gained more respect and admiration for the brotherhood. Real quick, Awesome Drake, what's your take on it, dog? You know, you got that swag game. What's your take on it?
Shout out to all you black men, man. It's a pleasure.
Shout out to you, brother.
Shout out. I'm sure we all independent thinking black men here, and we know that he was extremely picky and choosy. That's what we used to call him when I was in the penitentiary. We would say you pick the fight with this one, but you won't pick a one with, you know, somebody who you don't think you can win with. And you know, Kevin is a businessman, and he's branding himself. So I'll never knock a man, just as you said, Coach. I'll never knock a man for doing that. The question is, what do you value? And as you know, if you brothers have seen it in my content, you know I only have like 22 subscribers, and it usually goes between 24 and 21. So I'll lose 2 or 3 something I say, and then I'll pick up 2 or 3. But what I've decided is along this journey that I would tell the truth and shame the devil, and let the truth and let the chips fall where they may. So I think it's important for a man. I remember one time I read the Quran, a man establish principles unto himself, that thou ever act accordingly. The first of which is to thine own self be true, then thou can be false to no man. And if you can, as a black man, get that, I think the sky's the limit. So that's probably what I would add.
Right. Do you feel like that many, Dre, compromise when they're in the position of power only for fame and glory?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
And do you see why there was a great dichotomy between the men that, you know, because there was a great rift. Some said that Kevin was right, but a lot of brothers said, nah, I don't like how he handled that because they felt like she disrespected brothers and he didn't really defend the position. What's your take on that?
Yes, sir. Because it absolutely did. Because number one, this is America and this is a capitalistic society, and everybody in the end, we all just some greedy SOBs. You know what I'm saying? When it comes right down to it, with, you know, and everyone is trying to basically get their little piece of the pie. And this was his opportunity to capitalize. You know, that's the biggest space that he had on. He did kind of similar situation with Brittany Renner. He doesn't really want to ruffle feathers. He kind of picks and chooses his battle. And like I say, once again, I don't begrudge a man for trying to, you know, make the best out of his circumstance. He's extremely successful at what he do, and he knows his market. And then you got a lot of guys who they just, you know, I think what happens is in our community we have a lot of men who tend to be sheep. You either fall in the outcast guys, or you either fall up in a sheep category where you're just going to go along with whatever Kevin says. Everybody knows that Nicki Minaj is not a 9. Nobody has ever thought of Nicki Minaj as an extremely attractive woman. Nobody.
Never.
You know what I'm saying? So you're not being honest. That was extremely disingenuous, black man, and I'm sure that we all can attest to that.
Right. Yes. I'm talking about facial symmetry, but I don't give a damn how pretty your face is. You're not a 9. I think when men look at a woman's body, they look at the whole package. You know, your face alone is part of it. But so, you know, that's why people felt he was capping. But like I say, I like Kevin, but you know, Kevin.
It was a money move.
Right, and that's it. This is America. You know what I'm saying? And you know, in the end, you know, that's what we're all going to like to. Very few men will not sell out. Like I say, one of the things that is important, that what are you made of? And I'll say this, Coach, just a little quick story. While I had sued the Milton Police Department for racial discrimination, and they offered me 175 in order for me to drop the case. Right. I told them no, and I told them I'm going to trial. Well, while I was on the way to trial, the judge has to decide whether or not your case has merit. So he dropped 5 of my claims. He came back with I can't disclose something. It was extremely less than it was extremely less than 175. So I ended up having to take that after I denied 175. Now people ask me, why did I do that? I said, well, I was proud of myself because in the end, I tried to take it as far as I could, but I could only take it so far. And then I had to take what was left because once he knocked the claims down, then there was no injury. So my point is that I didn't sell out for the money. So that was one instance that I can say that, but I have sold out for the money in a lot of circumstances because I put myself in prison 3 different times trying to sell out for the money. So for me, chasing money has never winded up being a good thing. It's always taken me backwards. So what I've decided is to be true to myself and let that, because I feel I think I'm a better man when I focused on what really matters as opposed to just something for financial gain.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Do you think we become googly-eyed when we're in the presence of an attractive woman to the point that we compromise our inner sanctum as a man? And if so, what percentage of men do you feel, Ingram, struggles with that when they're in the presence of a pretty woman, meaning they violate what their true boundaries and principles are as men to assuage or appease a woman? What's your take on that?
I think it's very high. I always have this saying, if you want to see what a man is truly made of, the true essence of his soul, put him in a room full of beautiful women and watch his behavior. And everything that he shows you, he tells you the truth about his manhood. What he's a fake dude, what he's a panderer, what he's a dude that would sell you out. Watch his every move. It's like when people get angry, watch him. Listen to everything they say, because you might get the true meaning. But in terms of Kevin, if Nikki did not have money and fame, she would just be a ratchet chick with weave, fake eyelashes, fake booty, dropping N-bombs and talking that street butter talk. And she would not be even considered qualified. She barely qualified for Pookie and Ray Ray, which is, what a man is basically a Pookie and Ray Ray. So he's just pandering to money and fame. And let's call it for what it is. Kevin pandered to her because of money and fame and the ability to set up future networking opportunities to make money. I'm not hating on him. I understand. But that's the truth. You got to call a spade a spade. At the end of the day, you got to make money. But that's what it is. At the end of the day, we can't sugarcoat it.
Well, that's a very good point, man. When we talk about the inner sanctum of masculinity, and once again, I don't have any qualms with Kevin. I like Kevin. I like a lot of the work that he does, but we all as men can be held accountable. We all are flawed as human beings. And I just wanted to pose the question because from a mental health perspective, I think a lot of men have been arrested in their development, guys, because they're chronologically a certain age, but because they're still yearning for the things that more or less impacted them from a female imprint in the past, they have not more or less gotten over it. And I feel that until you uncover to recover and deal with those issues that are impacting your inner sanctum as a man, you are always at risk of falling back into that negative state. Coach Greg Adams said that most men are, a blowjob away from coming back on the plantation. and I think Coach Greg Adams is true.
I like that. That.
And I think Coach Greg Adams is true, man. Because many great men compromise their standards when it comes down to a beautiful woman. And it's easy to say what you would have done in that situation, but we don't know what we would have done. I think I know what I would have done.
Yes.
But it's easier said than done. MC Recovering Wellness, how would you like to add to the conversation, brother?
Basically, what I wanted to add, like what I wrote the last time, I started to see after seeing this video so many times that this video then fed a lot of folks. A whole lot of people is making money off of it. So that's why I put that quote in there that this was even bigger than Nikki and Kevin.
Right.
And I can see that, then I took out my cameras because most of the time when I'm at these after parties and these red carpets and stuff out here with the NAACP, the Pan African Film Festival, and of that nature, when you sidebar some of these pretty women, you come to find out that you know they want real answers. They have real problems. Some of them smoke cigarettes to keep the weight down, and some of them is bulimic, throw up food. If you get up close to them, you smell their breath, and you know, like, wow. So it's a whole lot of things. This is bigger. This was even bigger. It was bigger than Nikki and Kevin. So the best thing, like I said in the first Cash App, is that if you don't know what to do, don't do nothing at all. It looked as if God was running the whole show, and it's going to be on the floor for quite some time. Both parties, male and female, manospheres didn't get. Some people got some of what they wanted. Some people didn't. Yesterday on Dennis Burley, shit, we had a town hall about the Pookie and the Ray Rays. I had the courage to go to the Black Task Force meeting and tell them, people that have the nonprofits and the other agencies, that, you know, maybe on y'all next grant or something, y'all can write a proposal, figure out a solution to tell y'all female clients to starve the Pookie and Ray Rays out. Stop giving them validation and stuff of that nature, so we can come back in and rebuild our community. So
well, listen, a lot of people feel that the community is all but gone. Many believe that it will take generations to get it back. Many believe that you got to burn the surface to do a new harvest. And so a lot of men have checked out because they don't feel that in this lifetime that we're going to see a rejuvenation of the Black community. It's not that we don't desire to see it. We just know that in order to have the evolution, it's going to take years, because you have to take the old wine. Jesus said you can't take new wine and put it into old wineskin. You have to change the wineskin. The wineskins are old. You can't put seed on fallow ground. The ground is too hard. It has to be broken. And the question is, do we have the tools to break that fallow ground in this current milieu that we live in? And so I think that's the greater question. Ingram, you know, you and I talked about before in the past. You and I are Gen Xers. You were a D1 athlete. You played for Seton Hall. Seton Hall is a very good program. But do you see the community coming back into fruition in your lifetime? And do you think sometime, man, we deceive ourselves into thinking it's going to happen? What's your take on it, brother?
Yeah, to be honest with you, first, can I get a correct something in the chat? First of all, I'm not a manosphere dude. I'm that rogue male lion wandering in the wilderness. I'm out here on the Serengeti. You know what I'm saying? I'm too strong to be a manosphere guy. That's the reality of life. And in terms of the bag, I'm retired already. 46 years old, I retired. So the bag is already made. So let's move on to dealing with the reality of life. And I don't see, Kevin Samuels himself made the statement that a community cannot raise above the standards set by its women for access to their bodies. And what do we see out here in these streets? WAP culture and everything else. So if men have easy, especially in the hood, easy access to women's body, what is the incentive to improve their community? And all communities are built on the foundation of the nuclear family. And I see when we're dealing with our modern women, they have no incentive, especially when they're getting social media DMs all day long, women telling them to focus on themselves. I don't see the infrastructure necessary. There's no accountability. There's a morality crisis. You need a foundation, a moral foundation to build a community. And lions can't lead hyenas. That's just the reality of life. Unless you're leading a lioness, it ain't going to work. And many of these women behave like hyenas. And, you know, we see hyenas with that sex organ thing they have there. Looks like a male genitalia and whatever else. But you can't lead them. They only respond to the matriarch. So unless you're replacing, there's a lot of good women, you get that out there. Unless you're replacing those women with other women, I don't see the impetus for change. I don't see the motivation for change coming from anything within the community, especially when The women that are women I admire are the Lizzos, the Cardi B's, the Meg Thee Stallions. If these are the values and whatever they absorb, what you absorb is what you become. And that's not what's going to create a sustainable household. And I think that's why 54% of Black men are single, unwed, without any kids. The rest of the Black men are sitting on the sideline. It's just a matter, there's something wrong with the product. It's not just men. So the men are not, if the product was good, guys would be buying in, but the guys are not buying in. It's just the reality of it.
Let me ask you guys a question to the 66 that are watching, and also the guys on the panel. If you feel that Kevin was right, I want everybody to hit 1. If you feel Kevin was wrong, I want everybody to hit 2. If you feel like Kevin was somewhere in the middle, I want you to hit 3. Starting with Awesome Dre, I think you talked about it mostly in part, between being right, wrong, or in the middle. What would you say?
Great question, Kosher. As I said, I never like to say a man is wrong for what he does just because it's something that I wouldn't do. I think that's a breakdown in our community and saying, okay, this guy is right or wrong. He made a business decision. It's kind of similar to I was talking to Yaziz and I was saying, well, if a boxer got a fight and one guy want to fight him and they've been going back and forth, but it's not worth enough money. But this guy over here makes a lot more money, so he turns this fight down. We've seen that. We've seen guys make business decisions on the football field where they turn down tackles and so forth and so on because, the contract year is coming up. And so I never like to say a guy is right or wrong. And I know that's probably maybe hedging my bet. And I don't mean to do that to you, Kosher, but I don't think I'm in a position to say that.
That's fair. I don't have a problem with that. That's fair.
If that's okay, I hope you can accept that.
Oh yes, sir. No doubt. Let me shout out my man.
It's a bet,
$10, $5 super sticker. He said she will have gotten viciously checked by the Dream Team on this panel. Shout out to the England experience. Yaziz, what's your take on it, brother? And once again, this is no aspersion towards Kevin. I like Kevin.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of men are torn because they didn't feel like that Kevin had the same animus towards Nicki Minaj and other celebrities as he did towards average women. What's your take on it? Does he get a pass? Are you indifferent? He's in the middle, A, B, or C? What's your take?
Well, in this situation, if I had to be on the side of truth, I would say that he didn't show up the way he usually shows up against the ideas that she was presenting. Right. But understanding Kevin says, make no mistakes about it. I am about the money. Right. So because he said that he's about the money and he puts business first, everything that he does is about increasing his options.
Right.
I kind of have to understand that while he was sitting there, he was actually looking at his brand. He was figuring out, okay, this is Nicki Minaj. This is Young Money. This is a platinum selling artist. This is audience. She has a loyal following. I think he was mostly thinking about business instead of thinking about his objectives, I mean. So like the men of the manosphere will probably be more upset over the fact that, he didn't show up as their superhero at that moment that they needed him to. You understand what I'm coming from?
No, I understand totally what you're saying, but just like Chris said, that all this manosphere talk is all good until you elevate the bag. And so some will argue.
It's the truth, though.
Right. And so what God is saying is that it's counterintuitive. Once again, the inner sanctum of masculinity is standing firm in your convictions, even where there's opposition. So how can
his convictions? His convictions might have been based on money more than with the outcomes that he's trying to get for Black men and Black women.
Well, KP from KC5 says this: could he been trying to be the spook who sat at the door, getting them to change their dynamics? What's your take on that?
That's a good point. I mean, he's always said he's been kind of like the spook. He's always been trying to go into the upper echelon when it comes down to business itself. He's always had that position. I think his position about money and business supersedes all other decisions that he'll make in his life.
Right.
And now we know that.
Yeah.
So that goes back to the old biblical cliche. Jesus said you can't serve two masters. Only either you're gonna love one or you're gonna hate the other. Yeah. And listen, I don't have no dog in the fight. It is what it is. I mean, it's open for conversation because different people have different perspectives on it. It's caused a chasm for some of the greatest space of masculinity. Some just say, you know, it is what it is. It was just a power move, you know, because I would say Kevin is brilliant. He was playing chess, in my opinion. Yes. But, you know, as it relates to putting forth his own agenda, I think he was extremely brilliant. But as it relates to more or less advancing the call of the masculinity, then some would say, or I would say,
oh, no, he compromised.
He compromised, right?
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
Right. You know, because, you know, some would say you didn't have that same heat. For average, you for average women, you got different heat, but for celebrities, you sort of calm it down, and then, you know, some would say they would question his him being genuine. Like I said, I like the brother, you know, I don't have no qualms with him, but in this space of male acceleration, as I said before earlier, this is the place where, as men, we may not agree on all things or ideologies. That's why we call it the Manhood Chronicles. Men telling their stories about their pain, their fears, their hopes, their rejection, the things they went through in their psychosocial stages of development. And so that's why these conversations are so important. Go ahead, MC Recovering Williams.
Yeah, but I believe the first thing I noticed before he came into the show of Nikki, he just left his show. And when he came in there, I noticed that he was overwhelmed. It was as if he didn't even know he was going to really be in there. So it was all kind of dynamics that jumps off when stuff like that happening. Just like I say, I be talking to some of these actresses and actors, and then I already be seeing from where I stand that I don't have a shot, but every now and then I will slide in the shot. Just to get it.
Yeah,
it is, because some of them is not on, like, you know, certain shows and stuff. But just in case, that go back to closed fish, closed mouth don't get fed. So the beautiful part of that show was the reality of, you know, like I said on Dennis' table, if we ain't at the table, we are on the menu. So,
right.
you know,
Well, many are saying that that he was more. Many are saying that he was more of a 3. You know that. He dropped it. Many people in the comments are saying that he dropped it. Some will say he was in between. Mr. Albert was saying that the interview was pointless. I guess he felt like he shouldn't have ever went on the interview.
Somebody also made a good point, Coach, here when he said that he could have been about the money and plus got a viral moment. Like if he would have reacted the way he usually do against Nicki Minaj, that would have really put him out there on all the stations. So that's kind of like, you know, fumbling the money a little bit too. Like I think an old country boy said, like if he would have if he would have created a viral moment, because that's what social media is about. It's about the viral moment. You know.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, but I'm glad he didn't create another war right on the battlefield. See, it's like so it was a lot of tactics that it's best to just don't do nothing. It was more like a truce.
I can see that it did appear to be a truce, but I guess what some are saying, if you're going to be Spartacus, you got to be Spartacus at all times. You can't pick and choose. You're going to be Spartacus.
But Kosher,
that's for me.
Go ahead.
Kosher. Well, I mean, like for me, from a business perspective, I absolutely understand certain things, but part of Kevin's brand and why he has 1.27 million subscribers on his channel is because he's been unapologetically masculine.
Right.
And the reality of life is the people that support Nikki, they cringe at the name Kevin Samuels. Hollywood will never accept him. In this gynocentric feminist country that we live in, and this is not manosphere talking points, this is the reality of life. They will never accept Kevin. He'll be attacked like Jordan Peterson says attacked, because most of his views and his opinions goes against the social programming of this country. So if they can get Kevin to turn, if they can get him to sell out on his convictions and change his tune, it's a win for them. I mean, he may.
I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so Kevin really doesn't need Nicki Minaj or Future. His brand is what it is. If he dug into her a little bit, that only increases his brand. And that's what he made. He made it by being different. Nicki Minaj people hate Kevin Samuels. Every woman that you talk to, mention any feminist woman out here you talk to, you mentioned Kevin Samuels, and they cringe, they hate him.
Right.
And so I don't know what Kevin is selling himself to, because they don't want him. They don't like him. Feminists in the Black community don't want or like Kevin Samuels.
I totally agree. That's why it's sort of baffling, because Kevin Samuels' message normally is a message of male empowerment and getting women to take accountability for their bad choices. Many cringe at Kevin. That's why it's sort of schizoid. They were like, okay, which Kevin is it? Because like I said, Kevin's a Pisces. Pisces are duplicitous, and they're very malleable. But they're saying, okay, which one is it? And so it can be confusing. But once again, I don't begrudge the man for building his own brand, but at the same time, people are saying, do you do it at the chagrin of the broader prospects of men that actually look up to you and more or less respect what you do? And so we're just having a conversation. We're not casting aspersions against no one. We're just having a cogent conversation where as men we talk, because the Manhood Chronicles is about sharing stories and sharing similar experiences. Go ahead, Drake.
Yes, Coach. I just want to chime in briefly. I think, and one of the things that we have a problem with in our community is, and I spoke briefly about this on my channel, we lift up celebrities and we lift up people. We're the only community that when something of a political or serious nature happens, athletes and entertainers are trotted out in order to speak on our behalf. We don't, not Michael Eric Dyson or the brother Dr. Noble, but Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu and so many other brothers who can speak eloquently to the issues and the plight that affect Black people. Right. And so what we have to do is stop lifting these people up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the bottom line. We have expectations of these people when we should not. We can enjoy it from an entertainment factor, but when we start looking at it for more than that, I think we have a problem.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. That's a very fair point, Dre. And I think it's important that as men we hold each other accountable. But some feel that certain people they're not going to hold accountable for their own vainglory, for their own agenda. Aziz, let's talk about men sharpening men. Do you feel like men in this space actually hold each other accountable, or do you think they have selective outrage based on the power, prestige, and position of the individual?
That's a great question. That is a great question. I don't think necessarily it's holding each other accountable. I think it's the latter of what you just said, because it's all based on when you pay attention. This you can see that there's teams that people have. You can see that if they disagree with one person, they'll disagree with them totally. They won't take certain points and big them up because he makes a good point here, he makes a good point there. I think it's actually teams when it comes down to this space right here. I think that men, we used to be the ones that will always try to hold each other accountable. It used to be still sharpen steel, like iron sharpen iron, but I think we've kind of removed the way we went more into a sellout culture. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the transition of hip hop. As great as Jay-Z is, Jay-Z said he doesn't live with regrets, that he goes after the money. He said he would have been like Common Sense in them, but he made money, so he has to go after the money, and then he'll step on his people on the way up. And I think that's the mentality that we're living with today. And we don't live in we live in an era of post-truth. We no longer live inside the realm of truth and your word is your bond anymore.
Right. That's an excellent point. I want you guys to expound on that point of position as well. But Aziz, CGLA said a good general knows how to retreat in order to fight again. Is that a fair assessment, or you think that he had enough ammunition to have won the fight and would have gave him greater acclaim?
Kevin had the thing about Kevin is that he made his claim to fame based on the ammunition he used. Mm-hmm. Now you have an opportunity with a Nicki Minaj, right? You would have been going where you're going, whether you had her audience or not. I think at that moment, if he would have been more truthful, right, and don't worry about cancel culture or none of those things, that yes, Kevin would have showed a position as a man who tells the truth. He didn't have to be belligerent. He don't have to be belligerent. He could have did it in a calm manner and say, hey, to respectfully disagree with you. Let me give you these counterpoints. Let me explain you this. Let me give you these statistics, because that's what Kevin does.
Right, that's an excellent point. Ingram, I want you to add clarity to it, brother. What's your take on what I said? And then we're going to address what Janet J said. But what's your take on it? And then I'm going to go with MC Recovery and Wellness and Awesome Drake. Go ahead.
Could you repeat the question?
That's a good point you made.
I forgot what the question was, man. I guess what I was saying, that do men in these spaces hold each other accountable, or do they only hold those accountable that do men in these spaces hold each other accountable unequivocally, or those of star-studded level, they don't hold them to the same level of accountability? So more or less, the stars don't get the same accountability as the average man.
No, the guys in this space don't hold each other accountable, and many guys in this space are cliquish. They pander a lot because of the money or the subscribers, and they especially pander to women, especially because obviously if you tell women the truth, then they're not going to like you. They're going to unsubscribe from your channel. I mean, even if it means that they end up single, unmarried, but you tell them what their feelings want to hear, and that's it. But because a lot of guys, they'll if somebody has 200,000 subscribers and you have a small channel like mine, most of these guys are going to kiss up to that guy for subscribers or to build their channel, which takes away from. I understand the business part of it. Don't get me wrong. You want to build your channel, but the reality of life is, one of the things that Kevin has made his brand on is being authentically real, and that's what we respect about him. Mm-hmm. So my conclusion is that if Nicki Minaj was in a conversation with Gino Jennings, would the conversation be different? And brother right. Gino over in Philly don't care.
Gino don't care, right?
That's Gino don't care. It ain't about no money. What sometimes Kevin did some things which I respect, which was even during the COVID era, he was rating women. He was doing that radical stuff which built his brand to what it is. People who support Nicki Minaj or any of these celebrities, Future and these people, will never support Kevin. They'll never support Kevin. They're just not going to do it. Our community is a matriarchy. It does not respect masculine black men or any black man that goes against the social programming or the code. That's what's happened. They don't support the Kevin Samuels of this world. They certainly don't support any manosphere talking points or any of these other stuff. Black women in general don't want to hear that nonsense in their mind. So what is Kevin going to sell himself to? A community that doesn't even value him? And that's really the truth of the matter. Once you have that position, it's very hard to build on that.
No doubt. Excellent point. To the 80 people, 70 people that are watching, please share the content. Get the likes up. If you guys have not donated, donate to Cash App $7 Smalls. This conversation is very important as it relates to psychosocial development, as it relates to self-awareness, as it relates to more or less fortifying the inner sanctum of your masculinity, because men, we go through chronicles and crises in our life that need to be talked about and addressed. And part of being a man is we work together as men and holding each other accountable. Janet G said he would have increased his brand by telling her the truth. I agree with that. I think he would have got even more star appeal. But to you, MC Recovery, Wellness, and Readiness, do you feel like when it comes down to men in these spaces, do you feel like we hold each other accountable? And do you feel like the bigger names don't get held accountable like the average man, in your opinion?
Wow, that's a good question. Do we? Well, I watch several shows, so I can see where on certain shows I see people holding each other accountable, but then on other shows, like I see that in a certain clique, like Obsidian was basically holding up the manosphere points of of some of the stuff Kevin Samuels did, but I wish he would have brought up a couple of the points of of some of his data and some of his statistics when it came to Nikki moving the needle towards telling women to go and get their stuff together. And then I saw that was an open opportunity for him to say, well, can I explain explain one thing to what you telling them. So, you know.
Excellent point. Excellent point. What's your take on it, Dre? Do you feel that men in these spaces, the common man, get held more accountable than some of the bigger names in these spaces? What's your take, brother?
Absolutely. One sister came on my just yesterday, kosher fellas, and she said I'm not a black man, but I enjoy your content. A black woman. That really touched me, and I just appreciated a black woman reaching out, because you know anybody knows that I'm for the upliftment and propelment of black men first, because that's how we build our communities back. And you know, when it comes to conversations like this, they get personal because they hit home, and you know what I'm saying, and we've all experienced things of, you know, of different natures, and but yet we're all connected through the black experience, whether you've experienced everything as a whole or you've just experienced pieces of it. But we all know it. And so no, just to get back on task here, no, there's obviously levels to everything, and so you know, what I think is more so important is for black men to stay consistent to who you are. Can you sleep with yourself at night? At night, kosher, Ingram, male, recovery. Can you sleep with yourself at night? Can you live with what you've done? And in the end, I guess in that aspect, therein lies your value system. What can you live with? And if that's okay for you, then I guess I'm okay with it too.
Right. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. And we have these discussions, man, because you know, men are looking for hope. And you know, I think Kevin talked about it before partially in the past. Men are looking for hope. But many men have been burnt by women, but also burnt by men. And that can cause that psychic level of trauma to resurface if they're getting the same outcomes that caused them to be broken before in the past. And that's why these conversations need to be had. Not to more or less cast aspersions, nonetheless, but to have cogent conversations where men not only self-reflect and look within ourselves, but when we ask ourselves critical questions about what's going on, not only in our life, but also in the greater prospects of what we call the manosphere. Because in the Hebrew, kosher means fit and proper. And the question remains that are many men compromising what's fit and proper, trying to satiate the need for fun, trying to satiate the need for power, trying to satiate the need for belonging, trying to satiate the need for freedom, and trying to satiate the need for survival. And some will do that because, as William Glasser said, that needs drive behaviors as is an unconscious pathology. But, you know, many feel that the brother was wrong. Many feel that he dropped the ball in this prognostication about Nicki Minaj. And see, here's the quagmire. Mr. Ingram made a very excellent point. Many that more or less talk about Nicki Minaj more or less does not represent what heteronormative men want. She's very modern. She's very liberal. I would say a low-key feminist. Aziz, what's your take on Nicki Minaj not representing what most heteronormative masculine men want? And do you feel like it's really counterintuitive to talk to a woman of such ilk?
In a way, one thing we have to understand is that when you deal with Nicki Minaj is a brand. She's something that's been created, and she's been projected out in front of us. It's just like what Coca-Cola is as a brand. You know, she's been advertised. Who Nicki Minaj is with that guy, I do not know. I know we all have our opinions about him, but for some odd reason, you know, when you know, understanding and just seeing how they interact with each other, you know, he may be a Pookie, he may be a Ray living off of her money, but I don't know her interactions with that man. You understand what I'm coming from? I just know her as a product that is projected out to us. And a woman that is that type of product quality, if she comes in the manosphere space and she speaks to a person like Kevin, this is an opportunity for, I believe, for any man who's at that level to say, hey, you know, let me stick to my own brand. Let me stick to my truth, because she's sticking to her brand. She's sticking to the way she moves her eyes and her head like she does in the videos. She's representing her brand. So Kevin also has to have his brand compete with her brand instead of giving into her brand.
Right. And, you know, black girls getting their shit together said that he didn't give her the same energy he was smitten. And that's a fair point. And shout out to you, sweetie. Shout out to you. It's been a minute. But shout out to black girls getting their shit together. Swab said exactly, he could have respectfully disagreed if Nikki had a problem. So what? Kevin's more than capable of defeating or debating his points. Kevin is very articulate and very eloquent in his speech. And I think he could have clearly addressed the more salient points of the discussion without sabotaging himself or some of the merits of the black manosphere. Ingram, you heard me ask the question, and then Dre, I want you to give me some feedback. But what's your take on what I said, Ingram, about, and maybe you answered the question earlier, I got a lot of things going on in my head, but what's your take on the question that I asked?
What's that about Kevin diluting his brand in terms of speaking with her or not checking her on certain things?
Right. So basically I was asking the question that, because there's a known fact that she's a self-proclaimed feminist, some will argue, even though I think she called him, do you think he should have declined? Because her talking points are counterintuitive to what he represents as a man.
Well, again, we talk about, money, power, and fame as being what matters a lot to, obviously from a business perspective, I understand if that's the case. Nicki Minaj is not a 9. Let me get that off the table. I understand what he had to do. He had to say what he had to say, to get through the situation. But the reality of a life, if you take away money and fame and you ask any man that's in the chat or in the panel, if your son brought home a woman, your son who you've raised, educated, invested money, I've invested money in my boys' colleges and whatever, if they brought home a woman, forget about money and fame, take money and fame off the top of the table, that talk like Nicki Minaj, that act like Nicki Minaj, and he said, I want to marry that woman, Dad. Most men and women in this chat would be enraged, because they'll be like, you're going to marry that ratchet broad? You take away money and fame and let Nicki Minaj be an average woman working down at the post office, talking like that, behaving like that. Most men or women in this chat will not want their son or daughters to have any association with Nicki Minaj in a serious relationship. And that's the reality. So in that scenario, Kevin Samuels is going to be, Nicki has brand because she has the youth and a global brand. But Kevin has what's more importantly, respect of men and women around the country. His voice is powerful, and it's going to get even more powerful because his brand is unique, and there's nobody else like him. That's that big, that's making that kind of voice. So I think ultimately he watered it down. But again, Nicki Minaj, people that support Nicki Minaj, especially in the community, will never support Kevin Samuels. They don't like masculine black men. I guess I don't understand why masculine black men don't get it. They don't want to hear about what you're talking about, unless you're talking about gender neutrality and all this other liberal stuff that we do in the black community. Nobody's interested in what you have to say. They're not going to change for you. I don't understand why it's so hard for black men, masculine black men, to understand it. They'll never accept. Hollywood will never accept Kevin Samuels because it goes against the grain of their message.
No doubt. I agree with that, Ingram. Hold tight. I want you to hold your talking points because you make some good points. Hold on, shout out to JT Corn Rings for $5.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
The panel for having this discussion.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right?
This is a small token of my support for your work. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. Let me redo some more. Ingram, I want you to hold your point of view because you're making some good points. Let me get the next one. Hold tight. And shout out to Jay Daniels. He said Kevin Samuels didn't ask the Strag how much she weighed after she lied and said she was a size 4. Completely out of character. Now, I heard somebody say either you're on Kevin's side or you're not. Listen, this is not about being on anybody's side. I think all the brothers on this panel respect Kevin, including myself. I like Kevin. Kevin has done a damn good work when it's come down to supporting men. If any of you got a problem with what I say, I don't mind you having a fair critique of me. I got to look at myself as well. But it's not about being on anyone's side. It's about doing what's right. And it's just a conversation. Whether you agree, disagree, or you're somewhere in the middle, we're just having a conversation. Many have said that he dropped the bag. He dropped the mic on this one. Some are saying that, he was right in the middle. And then some were saying that he more or less pushed his own agenda. I'm just trying to have a cerebral conversation and get feedback because I've been following this story for a while, but I never had time to address it. But when we talk about heteronormative masculinity and standing on your square, we always talk about men standing on their square. Do they stand on their square when it's situational? Or do we stand on our square like the 300 in the movie called 300? I've heard some brothers say they would rather have 100 assassins than they have 1,000,000 soldiers. So, what say ye? Because these conversations are very important as it relates to fortifying the inner sanctum of a man. Some say that masculinity is fixed. Some say it's fluid. But these conversations are important because if Nicki Minaj is more of the feminist ilk, how does she more or less, help support what heteronormative traditional men want? But Aziz, what's your take on her being more of the feminist ilk and that really the conversation was counterintuitive in your opinion?
Yeah, if she's of the feminist ilk and she's presenting her point of view, talking about women need to upgrade themselves so they can get what they want in their options, what happens is that Kevin should have, he would have easily been able to do it, not only for the manosphere, but also for the Black culture at large, of saying how has the directions that Nikki's speaking about, how is it going to impact us positively or negatively? Because he always speaks about the outcomes, right? So the outcomes weren't presented in that situation. So the fact that she comes with these feminist points that we know have damaged the Black community and the female's outcome at large, their outcome in life, he could have presented the other perspective that he always presents and said, hey, these things are about outcomes. If you do go after the bag and you build yourself up, there's nothing wrong with women nor men building themselves up. But the thing about it is that he always speaks about you going after money and you wasting your time on that and not valuing relationships, which creates family, which builds a community, right? Which reflects on us as a whole. He could have explained what is going to be the outcome of doing that. What will women get out of that? So her perspectives, and she was presenting being of the feminist ilk, coming into his space, presenting those point of views, saying, oh, I heard a little bit of this about you. I heard a little bit of that about you. People saying this about you. Of course, he was correcting. He was kind of speaking to her, but through her to her audience saying, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm about, et cetera, et cetera. But then what happened that she still spewed a little bit. She used the N word real quick, real kind of like belligerent. He could have placed that in perspective and in respectiveness to himself and who he is as a man. Mm-hmm. As a man, you have to always be a man in every situation. You got to be the CEO. You have to be a man no matter who comes across. You can never be starstruck. You can never put anyone up on a pedestal, not as a man, not as a king of a kingdom.
Right. That's an excellent point.
That's the biggest problem in the Black community right now. If somebody has money, no matter how ratchet I am, if I'm a ratchet dude, jacked up, what I'm selling prawn, I say you speak prawn, not the other way. If I'm just doing all kinds of grungy, grimy, greasy crap, but as long as I'm riding around in a Rolls Royce Phantom, rich, everybody would kiss up to me and overlook all of my inadequacies as a man. That's what we have in the Black community. Just because somebody's rich and famous, you guys will accept anything, and that's the downfall of our community. We support a lot of low frequency people because they're rich, and we know where that has gotten us.
Yep, and I wanted to add on that because when we was talking about Cecily, the lady that committed suicide, and when I look at the videos that Lizzo puts up, and that O'Shea and them be giving talking points on, I even see this even when I'm at work as being a state employee for the Department of Mental Health. This goes on right in those meetings, but because I am the mental health counselor that have lived experience, I can expand more about the male side of things of growing up in South Central and things of that nature. So when I explain that part, that our community is numb, we didn't got used to drive-bys. We when a drive-by happened, we used to drop all the way to the ground. Now it's just a flinch. So being held accountable and when the Ingram experience is talking about these spaces and the pushback I get when they invite people from the alphabet community to speak on the same issues as Black issues to try to blend it in, that hurts. And then I try to say these issues are our issues. Then they are blending in with it's a color issue, people of color. So these are the pushbacks that I get, and I learned in this space here that I bring better talking points to the atmosphere of what's going on out here in Los Angeles.
Right. I want to ask Dre something before you pop off, man. There's been a lot of consternation about the Pookies tearing the street up. I think you say you're reformed. You're a reformed Pookie.
Y'all can pop back on.
I'm recovering.
Real quick, Dre.
Yes.
Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Lucky frozen. But how are you a reformed Pookie, man? Lucky frozen. I didn't see your hat.
Oh man. Oh, I thought that was because I was like this Herbert. I had to make some decisions. Can you brothers hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we
You
can
can hear you clearly.
We can hear you. Go ahead, brother. Yeah,
If he froze a little bit, I'm gonna chime in on something.
Go ahead,
too.
chime in. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
There was a time when men of truth, and I'm talking about the days of like Elijah Muhammad, people like Farrakhan, Martin Luther King, preachers and men of truth. There was a time when men of truth, they never compromised their position to men of fame, even to the point that a Muhammad Ali would even get down on his knees in front of an Elijah Muhammad, or Bayard Rustin and them and Harry Belafonte would join Dr. King in his movement. Dr. King wasn't starstruck because he was a great actor of these people's position, because truth superseded everything.
Right.
And the men of truth always stood up with a certain level of character and moral aptitude that they took as that represented their value, that aspect of that leadership, that represented being a general, not the fact that you had a lot of money or you had a lot of designer or fashion or somebody had fame. And I think us as men, we need to get back to those days where you're respected for being a man of truth and a man of who represents a specific type of image when it comes to character. And I think what happens is that branding, even individual branding, for every individual on this earth, your individual branding and your strategy with your own branding is very important. It always supersedes somebody else's branding because it's always about the perceived image of somebody else when it comes down to dealing with you. So Kevin has a brand, right? And his perceived brand is what we look for when we turn on Kevin's show. None of us turned on Nicki Minaj's show because we all pay attention to Kevin.
Right.
So Kevin's branding superseded anything. We don't even care if Nicki was going to drop a new album next week. We weren't going to buy it necessarily because we're not her fans. Right. So his branding and who he is and the standards of his truth, it supersedes what her fame is and what, or people say, hey, he's doing this for business or selling out to business. None of those things matter when it comes down to who you are and what you represent.
That's an excellent point. It sounds like to me you feel like that the need to more or less fortify the brand and what men stand for should have been more integral than more or less assuaging Nicki Minaj. Some will say that Nicki has a Jezebel spirit, like a lot of modern women. What do you think about that, Aziz? And then Ingram and then MC. What's your take on that?
Go ahead, Ingram. You said that who has a Jezebel spirit?
Some feel that Nicki have that spirit and that her, what she's standing for is counterintuitive to the masculine movement. What's your take on that, Ingram?
I think she has a Jezebel spirit, but also she represents ratchet culture and with everything that's wrong in the Black community. And what people got to realize is Kevin Samuels, even though he doesn't have the reach that she has, is more powerful than Nicki Minaj or Future of any of these people because he represents a change that Hollywood doesn't like. I mean, who wants to see a lot of people in popular culture? That's why they sell gender issues to the Black community so much. Is that imagine a community whereas if they had strong households with nuclear families and kids being raised properly, you'll have a real powerful, not only just a voting bloc, but a very powerful community. And what Kevin Samuels talked about was a type of change or mentality that could do a lot of positive things to the community. People like Future and like Nicki Minaj, they're more of a cancer to the minds of our young people. And anything they represent in their music or in their culture goes against the green of what Kevin represents in terms of his brand. So they reject him totally and wholeheartedly, which is why I don't understand that linkage with those people. Kevin has 1.27 million subscribers. If he wanted to, he can create his own new society with Black people.
Yeah.
He doesn't need Nicki Minaj or Future or any of them. He can really just start his own thing. That's why I subscribe to his channel and I support most of his content. But I'm not cheap. I call a spade a spade. Nicki Minaj is not a 9, and she has fake implants. She's covered in makeup. She's wearing a weave with fake eyelashes. And there's a lot of beautiful natural Black women out here that haven't been under the knife, that are adorable, that are cute, that don't have all those types of things. It's just that Nicki Minaj is famous and she's rich. Right. You take away the fame and the rich, you just have a ratchet street chick that just happened to make money off of selling low frequency music. And that's all that is. And even her decisions that she making men, she picked a guy that she could control. Right. And that's really, she didn't pick a masculine man that's going to challenge her or make her modify her conversation or her behavior. She picked somebody that she could control that had the same frequency as her. And if that's not the model for marriage that you want to see in the Black community. So what happens is we're giving people these passes. We're giving these people their passes because they're rich. Kevin Samuels doesn't, in my opinion, he doesn't need the Nicki Minaj people will never accept Kevin Samuels. They'll never accept his ideology. And now all these women that I support Kevin Samuels against, that these feminist women, when I say, yeah, I support Kevin Samuels and his ideals, they're ready to kill me. And I have to defend this brother. Now they can go back and pull that Nicki Minaj tape and say, look, your boy Kevin is not authentic, original to the message. See, he sold himself out. See, now you're giving feminists and these radical people in the Black community ammunition who don't really mean the community any good. So that's the reality of life. Is you got the long game is that those people at the money does not want to hear Kevin Samuels' opinions, because most of his opinions are about empowering the Black community. They don't like that. So if he can, they get him to sell out or go along and go into popular culture for the money. That is a huge win for Hollywood. That is a huge win for anybody that doesn't want to see the Black community come up.
Right, and that's an excellent point.
Love
because
that.
A lot of Kevin's talking points were actually very powerful. That's why I think it was sort of it felt counterintuitive, because a lot of Kevin's talking points are about accountability, are about self-introspection, are about the fortification of the inner sanctum of men as it relates to what they want, and also men saying that they are the prize catcher. I did a show, Ingram, talking about the prize catcher, Aziz and MC Recovery. And I've always said that she can be a prize in her head, but unless that man deem her prize worthy, she's not the prize. Nikki went on and said it very viciously that, F what men want, women should focus on themselves. That sounds very counterintuitive in my mind. Starting with you, Aziz, and then to MC Recovery and Wellness, and back to Ingram. What's your take on Nikki saying that F what men want? But before you say it, let me give a special shout out to my man Top Gun for the $1, $2 super sticker. He said, where was Octavius when she was talking live?
It's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
When she was talking live. But back to point, I want to ask you guys the question, back to point. What was your take? What's your all's take on her saying women shouldn't focus on what men want and what they think? They should focus on themselves only. That sounds counterintuitive. And that could have been a teaching moment for Nikki. But what's your take on that, Aziz, and then go on with Ingram? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that should have been a teaching moment. He should have taken advantage of that, because Nikki found it important after, when she got with Meek Mill. Even though Meek Mill was under assault, she played a feminine role with Meek Mill until Drake came out with his record dissing trying to put Nikki ahead, but she played a more feminine role in the backseat to Meek Mill, as if she supported him even when he was down through his struggles in the rap industry. Then afterwards, when she left Meek Mill, everything was about, okay, who is Nikki getting with next? She still got with a man. At the end of the day, with everything that she does, everything that she built and her ideas, she still has to find a man, to have a man be with her in order to add value to herself. Her money and her fame is not enough for her quality as a woman. It takes a woman having a man with her to bring up her quality. She couldn't stay single forever. She couldn't play even when you hear about Oprah Winfrey, you always have to put Stedman Graham somewhere in your head, which means that she couldn't stand on her own, that she needed. So when she said F men, she's actually lying to the women that are out there, the young girls who are going to go by what she's saying. She's lying to them, because in reality, she should have told them the importance, why she wanted to have a children. When she was with Meek Mill, her whole thing was that she wanted to have a child by a certain time, which means that it's very important to have a man who was a proper type of man for her to be in that position, for her to even have that child, because she knew her clock, her window of opportunity to have a child, that it was expiring. You know, her option had minimized. And after Meek Mill, it was like, okay, where else would she go?
Was it a teachable moment when it came down to the elevation of what men want, Ingram, for Kevin to have more or less qualify his position about when Nikki said that if what men want, women should focus on themselves? If you were Kevin Samuels, how would you have challenged that query?
Well, what I would say to her is that how has that worked out for the Black community? And really, that's just more feminist talking points. We could take it back from the 60s and so on and so forth, where the government came into the house and they said, focus on yourself and forget men. What happened? 25% marriage rate in the Black community. Crime runs rampant. No male leadership. You knock on every house in these high crime area. One thing is consistent. You knock on every door. Single mother kids, single mother kids, single mother kids. No guidance for the men in the community. So how has that worked out for us as a community without having male leadership? And people got to remember too, men and women are designed to be together, live it together, and complement each other. I mean, Phyllis Hyman was very successful. She ended up killing herself with depression and sadness. Right. That's not preparing women for the second half of their life. Right. When they, that's the whole idea. So this idea of chasing the bag, it's very masculine within itself. Not that women should not get paid and have good careers and whatever else, but every other race of women can go and get degrees, can go and get education and still get a husband at the same time. So they're building their community with their nuclear family, while they're telling our women to do what has failed, which is chase the bag or chase these degrees and chase everything. Not that you shouldn't get educated and forget about family, which is they just don't want to submit to Black men. They don't want to submit to Black men. They don't want to get on a Black men's program. So that's more feminist. They don't want the idea. Really, her statement is about, I don't want to be led. I want to do my own thing. And I think that's what Kevin should have corrected her and tell her, well, how has that worked out for the Black community so far?
Right.
And it's been a disaster.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. What's your take on the MC Recovery and Wellness about her not getting sanctioned for saying that women should focus on themselves? What's your take on it?
Well, that women should focus right on themselves. Well, you know, I wish Kevin should have said some of his talking points, but at the same time, that was very, very masculine, and it showed to me that, you know, it showed anger. It should have showed some sense of like pushback, anger. Ingram and the other guy pretty much said everything, but what I'm sensing from Nikki is a lot of insecurities. A lot. I can feel the energy through the interview, through the screen, that, you know, she really had Kevin there, I believe, because she really wanted some real answers.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
when we miss out on those opportunities, this is when individuals get pushed in the the place of depression, anxiety, and then they having what coaches say, that schema affliction, living
Mm-hmm.
something that they're not. So
Yeah.
because her husband is locked up, she cannot be feeling good about that.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Right.
Kevin and Kevin could have easily just said, so in order for you to become Nicki Minaj, wasn't it men like Lil Wayne and men like Baby and the one who gave you a child? Wasn't it men that put you in this position to get the bag and all of this? Wasn't it men that propped you up?
Right,
That's a good point. That's a good
right.
point.
You
And
know?
then in that space, the men that write them checks, that sit up the stage, that do the engineering behind the background, none of them don't even want a Nicki Minaj.
Mm.
That's the question you got to
The
ask.
people in the suit.
That's the question Kevin got. You got to. I would ask Kevin right away. If Kevin was to pop up right now, I ask Kevin, absent the money and the fame, is Nicki Minaj what you think is a high value woman? And see what his response would be based upon Kevin's own standard. You see what I'm saying? I would ask him that question.
Right.
Because
That's an excellent question.
Yeah. Is Nicki Minaj a high value woman? Would you want your son, absent the money, take away the money off the table? Because really, that's really all it's about, is the money. That gives her some value to a man maybe that's not rich. But outside of that money, she's just a regular ratchet street chick. And would you want your son or your daughter, your son, to bring home a woman like Nicki Minaj? And most men on this panel will be like, hell no.
No way in the world.
I'll slam that door right in her face. Get her off my kid who's in college now. He brought home a woman that talked like that.
Right.
Me and him going to have a private chat in my downstairs office about his choices.
Let me read out this super chat by James
That's a
Turner.
bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal,
He said,
right?
Coach, what about Nicki's
That's a
emotional
bet,
state?
right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
She doesn't think much of her dad and some of the family members. And, I think Nicki is right. I think what Nicki is doing, what a lot of women struggle with, is something called vicarious trauma. And what they do is a condition called displaced aggression, which is a thinking error where they displace their aggression towards a target that should not have been more or less displaced against. And a lot of it's due to unresolved pain. A lot of it's due to the lack of introspection. And a lot of it's been due to also the coddling of liberal policies that more or less tell our women that our black men are the enemy. I would say unequivocally that black men love black women. They do. But many brothers don't like the behaviors associated with some of our women, to the point that many are beginning to explore their options in other areas in other countries. And so it's that cycle of matrilineal succession that's caused a lot of our women to more or less sabotage their movement with getting good, viable men. I want to ask you a question, MC Recovering Wellness, because some had a level of disdain for what Nicki said about black men can go eat a penis. It was very vulgar. She had been checked by Kevin by telling black men to eat a penis, starting with you, then Yaziz, and then Ingram. And then if there are any women that would like to come on and add to this conversation, feel free to in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to sign off, or any other men that would like to add to the conversation. So go ahead, brother.
Well, that was like his time to say one of those talking points, like what if a man, to give an example, to explain to her, to give her a teaching point. Now, see, an individual like you, Nikki, can get away with that, but if it was a man that said that to an audience, like if Kevin say, something vulgar to one of his female thing, like suck his penis, then they'll get like cancel culture type of stuff. So in other words, that was very disrespectful. It basically looked like she wanted to give her audience a bone anyway. So
Yeah, that's a great point. And to add to that, the moment she said to eat a penis, the moment she said something like that, he should have, man. I know exactly how she said it, but he should have checked her straight. Because one thing I know what Kevin does is that if you're a white woman and you come on there and you're trying to speak against black women, he'll say, hold on. I'm not going to give you an opportunity to speak about black women like this. That's what he does. He don't care what type of white woman it is. And then if someone comes on there and they speak negative about men, he always says that, hey, don't you know that I'm an advocate for black men, that this is a male channel, that we advocate for black men. So in that situation, when she said eat a penis or what have you, he should have checked her because he's an advocate for black men, regardless if he's about the money or this and that. He states it all the time. He'll stop people in the tracks. I'm an advocate for black men. That's what he's about. That's what his brand is about. That's what he's built himself on. He built himself on correcting black men and then correcting circumstances with black men so black men can have better outcomes. In the situations, what Nicki Minaj was representing had nothing to do with advocating for black men or making circumstances better for black men, nor making it better for black women by her saying black women do this, because that's not going to get them the outcome.
That's an excellent point. Ingram, what's your take on the brother about her saying black men should eat a penis? Did you find it to be very disingenuous and also very disrespectful?
I found it to be disingenuous, disrespectful, and low class. And once again, we're enamored by money, and you can see some of the women that get in this chat getting their feelings. And they know what I mean by ratchet and low frequency women that talk that gutter talk. Every word out of their mouth is N, B, S, N. That they know what I'm talking about. You have that conversation. It's very masculine. You can hear some of them. My work in the inner city, talking on the phone, talking out loud, very aggressive in their nature. Low frequency women. That's the reality of life. Again, money does not increase your quality of a human being. It just, maybe amplifies some of your worst qualities. And I think that's something that Kevin Samuels needed to address with her, because her personality and her attitude is why most black women are not getting married in the black community. Okay. And that's to Coco Bunny. That's the real answer. The way how Nicki Minaj behaves and her attitude, she may got a dude that she can marry and get under her control because she has money. But when you're dealing with a regular man that's a masculine man, black men are not buying into that type of attitude that Nicki Minaj has. That does not sell. And all these men on the internet selling you women lies, getting into y'all emotions and feelings, they're just in it for the money too, because they're not going to tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth. Nicki Minaj's personality and attitude will keep your ass single. No man is buying into that. No man that's worth having.
I agree with you 100%, Ingram. That part is true. A masculine man is definitely not going to tolerate it. A man with substance or standards, because if there had been a man, or Kevin had been on a woman's platform saying that towards women, it would have become with a lot of ill repute. And that's what I mean by men more or less not fortifying their inner sanctum. We allow ourselves to be Spartacus only under certain circumstances. And like Aziz said, great men like Muhammad Ali, even the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even you don't have to agree with some of their worldviews, Dr. King, Malcolm X, they stood firm in their convictions, even when it was not necessarily expedient to stand on issues that were more or less not popular. And it appears that we have a popularity culture where men are more apt to stand on and do things that's based on feeling good for the populace or doing it when it's convenient instead of doing it for the sake of doing what's right. Coco Bunny, if you would love to come on.
You know what? I got a question.
Give me a minute, brother. Give me 1 minute. MC Recovery. Coco Bunny, if you would like to cam up, we won't attack you, dear. If you want to come up and add clarity or ask Ingram or Aziz a question on MC Wellness and Recovery, feel free to cam up. We're not going to attack you. The guys here are very fair. But go ahead, MC. Go ahead, brother.
And I got a question to the panel in general. Hopefully, so here it is. We have Nikki, and then And then the females are always supposed to be attracted to a masculine man. So is the female nature warped in some sense? Because if the masculine man is the Pookie and Ray Ray, why for the bailout they always want? They seem to not to even find that baby daddy season type of fella either, because many of those guys are masculine and protective with their money. So that's true. I don't know if I worded it right, because the Pookie and Ray Ray, some of them got money, but not all of them. And some of the Pookie and Ray Rays have jobs.
Well, there's been I was listening to a content
warp,
creator.
It's a warp reality.
I was listening to a content creator, and the brother makes some good points. Yeah, I can see it from both sides. There's a lot of consternation against the quote unquote Pookie and Ray Ray. Some say that Pookie and Ray Ray was a byproduct of his environment, his conditioning. I think it's a combination of nature and nurture. I don't think it's all this of nature itself. I think nature plays a major role. And so many are saying these men wasn't born that way, the genetic predisposition, they became that way. But that's neither here nor there. But I do believe that we need to focus on calling out bad behavior with bad men, but also we need to look at what made those men become bad. And because it's not really a cure-all slate when it comes down to why Pookie became Pookie or Raekwon and Man Man. I used to work with inmates and convicts, and some of them were byproducts of their environment and also social conditioning. Some say with genetic predisposition. So we got to look into the elements of what made them become who they are. But we do know that a small percentage of men are causing havoc in our communities as it relates to being out of line. And the newer breeds and the newer generations are even worse. Ingram, you were a cop in the past. You were in law enforcement like myself. And you can attest to how the street code is no longer the street code like we had when we were kids growing up. But go ahead, Ingram. I want you to add clarity about this this penis thing about eating penises and this whole thing about.
Well, people always have this conversation about Nicki Minaj and all these women with all these options. If that's so much options that she has, she didn't marry a high value man. She married a man that she could control. And what happens a lot, and even especially in the Black community, is a lot of these women get with the Pookie and Ray Rays of this world because their standards are low. You see, they're not going to check that gutter talk. They're not going to check that. But he doesn't, you don't have to go with that guy to represent him at that banquet for his boss at the company or IBM or whatever else. You can't talk that talk there. Otherwise, I'm not getting that promotion. Or if I don't own my own business or whatever else. So there's not a standard to be raised in dealing with Pookie and Ray Ray.
Right.
You can talk that gutter talk. And some of our women especially, what used to get me so time, I'd walk through the community, they'll have that cell phone right to their mouth like this, yelling in that cell phone, patting that weave. You can't, itching. I don't know what's up with the itchy weaves, man. I don't know who does that all day long. I felt like just grabbing out some soap and water and scrubbing those skulls, man, because that's like some dirty ass. You can't have that with no real dude. Patting of the weave, low frequency conversations, N-bomb, F-bomb, every little, I can't make no money with that type of attitude around me. People look at me like I'm crazy. So that's what I'm talking about. So other than being in the entertainment, we forget that Nicki Minaj is in the entertainment business, which majority of the population is not. And the guy that you want to meet likely is not in the entertainment business. It's a regular guy who works at this bank or post office or this place, and he can't rock that type of chick, in any professional environment. I mean, I would never take a dude serious if he walk up and he has a chick that talks like Nicki Minaj. I'd be like, yo, man, come on, what kind of are you rocking with, man? And that's the real world. And that's what a lot of women don't understand. That's just entertainment. That's not the real world. Right. You can't rock that type of girl. Your boss will look at you like you crazy. If you're not a businessman or own your own business, you can't rock that unless you're in the entertainment business or maybe an athlete. I've been an athlete. My son's an athlete. But you can't rock that type of woman. That's a representation of you and who you are. And you can't have nobody talking that type of grungy, street talk, and like I said, I don't need nobody scratching no weaves or talking that gutter talk around me. That's zero tolerance for that. Get out of here.
Well, that goes back to the old adage that women keep each other single. What's your take on that, Yaziz? And Coco Bunny, if you would like to cam up there, feel free. We will not attack you. But if not, we're going to move forward. But there's an old adage that other women more or less keep each other single. Yaziz, what's your take on that? Are other women keeping each other single? And we're going to sign off in a minute. I got to get to the office, guys. But if there's anyone else that want to cam up or pop on for a few minutes in less than 2 minutes to talk, feel free. But in a nutshell, real quick, in less than 3 minutes, do other women keep each other single? And what did you get from this conversation?
Yeah, definitely. Women definitely keep each other single only because, generally when you deal with an ecology of people, no one necessarily wants to be an outcast in no situation. So a lot of women are going to, if they're in a specific environment, they're going to make sure that they think and they project out what is acceptable to other women, because the women are projecting what they think is desirable and what validates them, right? So because of that idea of seeking validation and the role that women have been, what's been advertised to women as her role in popular and mainstream culture, a lot of women are, they're looking at other women and seeing, hey, if they match them as an ecology of people, and that's what helps keep other women single. They all portray the same idea, the same acumen, the same intelligence, to as if to show that they're in the know or that they're chic. And that's the problem with women. What I got from this show is that I learned two things. Is that there's a part of and from the chat and from everybody else, there's a part of Kevin that is about what he speaks and what he stands for, which is the brand. But the other part of it is based on where he feels he may need to go to get to in order to get the outcome that he wants, meaning that he'll compromise a little bit in order to get access to other audiences, in order for him to still give out his message to those audiences. But he won't compromise it if a Brittany Renner or Nicki Minaj comes in, because they represent opportunity, not the chance for him to act as Kevin does when he deals with regular women. And that's what I got out of this show.
Excellent, excellent. Coco Bunny, can you cam up, please? I don't know if you're a troll, so I know you're on. But can you cam up, please? Hello.
Y'all don't make fun of me. I'm from Kentucky. I'm a little country, but
I promise you. I promise you. I'm not going. We're not going to make cam up on the scene.
I'm moving. I got my hair is all over my head. I'm not a troll, guys. Okay. Look, I'm not.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Add to the conversation.
Okay. So I came in when you were talking about Nicki Minaj. I am a fan. And I heard you say, oh, she was ratchet and this and that and the other. I think she had done a live with Kevin Samuels. Me particularly, I don't particularly like Kevin Samuels. I don't even know why she jumped on there, but she did. Right. Now, I heard you saying that she was ratchet, and I asked the question. I said, well, I
just said she was ratchet.
I said I said that she was ratchet. That's what I said. She sounded from what she projected in that interview, based upon my impressions and based upon the information she put out there in the environment. It is my conclusion that only a ratchet woman would talk like that.
Okay, so you're basing her judging now. You're judging her based off
I
interview.
Judge. I want to be judged, and I judge. I want to be judged hard. If people don't, I want to be judged hard, and I judge. I want people to judge me, hold me to a standard.
All right. So you judged her based off of her interview.
Yes.
Okay. And you just flat out said, if she wasn't rich, take away the money, and she's just a regular, basic, ratchet black woman, right?
Street woman, yes.
Street woman.
Yes.
Okay. But you also agree that she's talented, right?
Yes, she's talented.
You also agree that she's a businesswoman. She has multiple businesses, right?
Yes, she's in the entertainment business.
And she's smart, intelligent.
You can be talented, you can be smart, you can be educated and still be ratchet.
Okay.
You can be rich and be ratchet. You could be poor and be ratchet. You could be middle class and be ratchet. It has nothing to do with being ratchet. It has to do with the frequency of your mind.
But you just said take away. You said take away the money.
Right.
And she's a regular. That right. I don't consider someone as smart and intelligent as her as being basic and regular.
We don't know. See what I'm saying? I can become famous picking boogers in today's society, because at the end of the day, we know attention is the new drug.
Well, you have to be a pretty smart man to do that.
No, you just have to be
You've
stupid.
got to turn big boogers into cash.
Okay, let me ask you a question. A C or D level actor right now in Hollywood is starving because reality TV is the new hit thing, right? Reality TV doesn't require any talent. The more stupid you are, the more ratchet you are, the more we like low frequency. Like the Kosher Clinician has an excellent channel, very intelligent brother, this space. He puts out quality content in the mental health space. That's why I support his channel, right? There's channels out here that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers that put out absolute garbage. I think his channel is more successful than theirs, but theirs are more popular, right? So if I was to base that just solely on his subscribers, can I say that they're more intelligent than him because they have more subscribers than him?
Well,
absolutely not.
I could take a poor man off the street and give him $1 million. He'll have to be smart to turn that $1 million into $1 billion and to keep it, because people win the lottery every day, right? And when they win the lottery, oftentimes they end up broke and penniless. Some of them end up homeless.
Right.
Okay. So in order to keep money, in order to keep businesses rolling, you have to be smart and you have to be business minded and business savvy. And everybody doesn't have it. Do you agree?
Well, that's true, but
so I wouldn't call her basic.
Well, I'm saying,
hold on. Hold tight. Let me add to this. I'm going to ask High Def. High Def, I allowed this young lady to come up, not because she's a woman, brother. I've allowed brothers to come up in the past. Typically, I don't allow people to come up on my platform without camming up because of trolls. There was a young man I had a show Sunday, I allowed them to not cam up. So there are times that I do grant grace. In general, I don't. But, sometimes there would be exceptions to the rule. So it's certainly not because she's a woman, because I've granted the same grace to men. But I want to add clarity to what Ingram was talking about. I think Ingram is correct, Coco Bunny. I do believe that the fact, just because a person has status or money, it doesn't make them, in my mind, any less ratchet. You can be ratchet with money, like Ingram said, or you can be rich and be ratchet. Listen, there are educated, intelligent women that are ratchet. I know some women that call themselves ratchet and bougie. They call themselves ratchet bougie, but they're educated women. So ratchet is not mutually exclusive. There are some women that
he didn't
are ratchet.
just call her ratchet though. He went on to say she was basic.
What I'm saying to you is this, okay? In the Black community, 25% of women are getting married. The guys are not buying the product, okay? The consumers are men. If you want to raise the Black community, you have to start with the nuclear family. The men are not buying regular women that behave like Nicki Minaj. It's 100%. Not selling. They're not selling. So regardless of what you say, we are still the customers. And if we don't want the product that you're presenting, we won't buy. And I'm telling you, with women, I'm not one of these guys in this space that pander to women for money. I'll tell you what sells. I just made a video about Lizzo. Lizzo does not sell. Nobody wants the 400-pound woman sitting in their house eating all the food out of the kitchen. We don't buy that. What I'm trying to tell you is most hardworking, successful Black men don't want the Nicki Minaj type regular woman. You can say whatever you want to say. The customer is not buying.
Nicki Minaj didn't create herself. Nicki Minaj was actually created. She's a product. If you take Nicki Minaj before the product, before they paid for her BBLs, before they paid for her surgery, before they took things from Little Kim and added that quality, put her on Young Money and everything else, and you take Nicki Minaj in her raw form with just her talent, she was actually a very basic, pretty young woman. She wasn't one that you thought would have ended up being a CEO or whatever because of who she is. Some women you can understand from where they come from in a certain stock and because intelligence, remember this, intelligence is created. You know what's added to a person. Nicki Minaj's fame actually made everything else outside of it. And that's one quality that she did have, is that she was a great performer and she understood that.
She's a great performer And
She's a great
she's
performer, a great
intelligent.
artist.
She's also intelligent. She's very intelligent. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Can she still be intelligent with her clothes on though? Like take away, like what I'm saying is,
I believe so, because guess what? There's a lot of people taking off their clothes and have not gotten as far and built
but
an
look who's
empire the
there.
way that
It's
she
Megan
has
Thee
built.
Stallion, it's Cardi B. Who it's Beyonce, who's famous right now
Nikki's a
and who
performer.
has
She's
clothes
not.
on
She
at
doesn't
that
have. Yeah.
level.
It
So
doesn't.
what makes Nicki Minaj?
Oprah.
What
Now Oprah
don't
is smart.
compare Oprah
Oprah
to
is
Nicki
smart.
You cannot.
Minaj,
Yeah.
Coco
You can't
Bunny.
put them two
Oprah
together.
is
It's too
smart.
far away.
What I'm
Be
saying,
sincere.
but you just said who, and
One
I
at a
said,
time.
well,
One at a time. There's too many conversations going on. Go ahead, Lulu. Go ahead, dear.
Okay, so I'm talking to Coco Bunny. So firstly, let's understand the context of the conversation. This is a platform where we are trying to encourage the Black family, where we are trying to change the modernized toxic feminist views that Black women have right now. We're in the manosphere. So you have a man or a group of men saying that they are looking for this quality of a woman. Now, I just want to speak quality. Forget that she is Nicki Minaj, because when I compare Nicki Minaj, which is why I think Coco Bunny is being insincere, when I compare Nicki Minaj to Megan Thee Stallion, to Cardi B, then Coco Bunny moves the goalposts and then says Oprah. I don't think Oprah and Nicki are having a long conversation together. They're not even in the same sphere. Let me finish, Coco Bunny.
Okay, go ahead.
They're not even in the same sphere. You can say Kim Kardashian is smart. So is she smart because she released a sex tape? You can be intelligent and you can be wise to evil. I don't see a mother wanting to take their 2-year-old and say, I want you to grow up and be a Nicki Minaj, and I want you to emulate a Kim Kardashian in terms of what they have done in their careers, because their careers are centered around hypersexuality. So if you're speaking to the quality of a woman that Nicki Minaj is in terms of marriage, then that's the conversation you need to have. Don't be comparing her to Oprah, because that has nothing to do with the conversation.
Not as a quality as a woman. That's so true.
Okay, can I respond? Are you finished? Can I respond?
Go ahead, Coco Bunny.
Okay. Well, no. Before you even mentioned Cardi B, you said, you mentioned Nicki. You mentioned Nicki, and then you said, what woman? That's all you said was what woman has that level of success without taking off her clothes. And I said Oprah. So I responded to what you said right then and there, and then you went on to say Cardi B, they taking off their clothes. So that's how I was responding to it right there, right then and there. You said what woman, and then I responded. So, but I do have a question for you. Do you think, and all of you, do you think the success of the Black family is totally dependent on the Black woman and what the Black woman is doing wrong?
Can I answer that question?
Go ahead, Ingram.
Kevin Samuels himself even said it. The success of a community cannot rise above the standard that women set for access to their bodies. And what that means is simply this. If women decided today that they were not bodies, and what that means is simple. Let me repeat. If women decided today that men will not be allowed to have sex with them unless they all show up with a bachelor's degree and a credit score of 750, you'll see the lines wrapped around the buildings at the local colleges. You'll see what. Well, right now you can pick up WAP off the ground as it drops off the truck. Pick one up, dust it off. The fruit is not even on the tree; it's laying on the ground. You walk up to it and you pick it up and dust it off and take it back. Men have no incentive because we've lowered the price of access to a woman's body so low with these low frequency WAP type activity. Look at me. I'm a retired guy. I don't have to do a damn thing. You just call what they call it, DoorDash, and have WAP delivered to you. There's no work anymore, sister. What are you going to, you're not building any community with these low frequency women in low frequency conversation. The men are not going to level up to buy. That's why the 54% of Black men that are single and unwed. That's why black men are not marrying up, because you guys continue to defend the type of behaviors and attitudes and actions that these women represent that are not going to raise or elevate anything. Men are just sitting onto the sidelines. I have 3 boys, 27, 24, 21, all successful, all educated. They ain't even thinking about marrying nobody, especially in the black community. What I'm saying to you is, I'm an educated, retired man myself. I am the product. They are the product. We represent the product that women want to marry. And we're saying, hell no. Now what's in the streets?
So you're saying
powerful, Ingram, powerful.
I would like to add to this.
So you're
Coco
saying
Bunny.
no? Are you saying that yes, it does depend on the woman? Or are you saying no?
Well, let me add to what Ingram said. Let me add on to Ingram said. I think Ingram's saying it does depend on the woman, and I would like to add to that. And you tell me what you think.
Solely on the woman.
No, listen, it's not solely on the woman, but she plays a major role in her own demise. But it's not solely on the woman because both are complicit. To be clear. Well, let's talk about the evolution of the sexual revolution prior. Prior to the sexual revolution, some of the most conservative ladylike women were black women. Black women were very conservative, and they respected themselves. But when our women got influenced by liberal indoctrination, they became the icons of the women that more or less subjugated them in the past. I want to ask you a question, Coco Bunny. If our sisters practiced the virtues of our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and our mothers of the past, do you think we will have the high rate of out-of-wedlock children if they practice the same principles that their grandmothers practiced, which was respect your body, conduct yourself as a woman, and don't believe in sexual liberation? What's your take to that?
I grew up on those principles. I grew up very, very, very strict. Okay. In apostolic Pentecostal home. Now, it's not what it used to be. Apostolic Pentecostal is not what it used to be.
Yes,
but I grew up very, very strict, where people that I grew up with were virgins until married.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
Okay. And we had certain values and certain things that we were supposed to do as women. But men also had certain things that they were supposed to do as men, which is supposed to be the leaders.
I agree.
80% of our men are in jail. Okay. So what you have is you have these mothers raising their children and trying to raise men and can't do it alone by themselves. So 80%. You have these
but hold on.
80%?
No. Hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. It's not, sweetie. It's not 80%. It's only a small percentage. But
really?
It's not 80%. No, it's not 80%. That's
17% is giving 80% of women pregnant.
Right. That's exactly right. But Coco Bun, I appreciate your honesty because I grew up similar to you. I grew up Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal holiness as well. You and I grew up similar.
Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, you and I both grew up similar, but you answered my question to the point that you didn't answer it. I'm going to say it again. If women practice the edicts of women of the past, and on a broader context, whether they're in the church or this conservative women, do you think we would have the social ills that we have today? I do agree with you that men and women both are complicit, but the woman carries the higher onus. So if non-church women and conservative church women practice what your grandmothers and your grandmothers practice, saying, you ain't getting none until you put a ring on my finger, do you think we would have the deterioration in the community?
Men would have no choice but to comply or go elsewhere.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There you go. That's it, sis. There you go.
Great.
You're right, Coco Bun. Thank you, dear. You're right. You're correct. And that, let me get her some fire for your mind. She get a fire for your mind. But she's correct. You're right. And I appreciate your honesty because that's what women understood. But when our women became sabotaged by liberal policies that say you can do what you want to do and you can, it's your right, there's a consequence for bad behavior. What Ingram is saying, because listen, I agree with Ingram. I grew up in high school in the 90s. Back in the day, you know, a woman's body or a vagina was like $9.99 on the pound. But now it's damn near like Walton and Bologna. It's like 99 cents. It ain't worth a damn because men don't take it serious because women took away their virtue by giving away so free. And guess what, Coco Bunny? It's not every man. Most men are not getting action like that. It's only a select few of men. They've done studies there to say that 30% of men are virgins. So it's not a lot of men getting a lot of action. It's only the top 20% of men that are getting that action. You know, and the other men are actually invisible. But before you add to it, because I appreciate your honesty, dear. You're very honest. I appreciate that. I want to give a special shout out to my man Al to Prayer. He said I had to donate a little something to the collection plate, Coach. Your brother Ingram, I believe his name is. He was speaking nothing but straight facts, no doubt. Ingram is a scale balancer, no doubt, and I appreciate Ingram because Ingram is keeping it 100.
Right, that's a deal, right? That's a deal.
And I think Coco Bunny, if most women thought like you in terms of using that logical precision, we want to have the issues that we're having now. So go ahead, sis. I appreciate your answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I wanted to highlight a talking point of that I believe that the women need to let the women that's coming behind them know the value of us men. And also in these days of time, it's like it's nothing. It's just like what Ingram and them was saying. It's like it ain't nothing to compete for no more. Shit, it's like I'm not going up against Ingram to get at this woman before Ingram because it's like we're on the same playing field these days. So basically, what I can see the hardening facts is that these women don't see the importance of a man. They don't see the importance of our guidance and our safety and well-being. It's almost like we're looked at as if we are pets or something.
That's a fair point. But I appreciate your point. Coco Bunny, did you want to add something else? And I think Lulu Bean, if you want to counter, I'm gonna sign off in a few minutes. I got to get to the office. But Coco Bunny, did you want to add to what the gentleman was saying? And
no, I just thank you guys for your honesty. I think I was just a little bit triggered because I do not like hearing Black men talk about Black women. And I don't like hearing Black women talk badly about Black men.
Right.
And it seems to me like I get onto these YouTubes and I'm just listening. I might, go to one and I'm listening to one and the women are talking about the Black men. And I don't like that. And then I'll go to like a show like yours and I'm hearing Black men talking about Black women. Why? I just don't like the fact that both sides are talking about each other, pinpointing.
But this show was not. But this show was not.
Just let me finish, please.
Right.
I just feel like that both. I think we should be very, very sensitive to each other, one another, and I think that we should listen a lot more. And I think you should see the women's side of it just as well as women see the men's side of it. And it's not always everything that the men say isn't always actual and factual. And everything that the women say isn't always actual and factual. But we need to come to a common ground to where we're not doing this anymore.
Well, listen.
Because
Go ahead.
Can I say something to the young lady?
Let her finish first. Go
ahead, sister. Sorry, my apologies, sister. Go ahead. My apologies.
I think that what we're doing is we're not resolving anything. I think that what we're doing is we're giving outsiders, and when I say outsiders, I mean outside of the American experience, the African American experience. If you weren't born here, then of course your values are going to be a little bit different. The man is always the head of the household in every country except the African American experience. And when I think about it, it's not totally Black women's fault and it's not totally Black men's fault. And the reason why I asked you, do you think that the issues are solely dependent on the Black woman? I was looking for a different answer. I wasn't looking for you to blame Black women, and I wasn't looking for you to blame Black men, but I was looking for you to blame our surroundings in our traumas and what we've been through. I was looking for you to maybe find a solution to our trauma. We have a lot of trauma, guys. And I mean, this is generations after generations after generations of trauma due to the welfare system, due to our years and years of slavery, due to us not even getting our 40 acres and a mule.
I'm sorry, we can't blame slavery. I'm so sorry.
Sister, I have to, Brother Kosher, I have to respond to this. Here's a different, okay?
Right, go ahead.
If this was a show for a panel full of black women and they were talking about ratchet black men, I'm not going to pool those black men in the same pool with respectable brothers on this panel. Right. All black women are not the same. Some black women are respectable and virtuous, and they deserve a certain level of honor and respect. Like, sister, you came on this show, you're respectful, you're articulate, you sound like a very intelligent sister. I put you in a higher category than I would put
Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj. So I'm going to deal with you different than I deal with a ratchet woman like Nicki Minaj because of the way you come across as a respectable sister. The problem with black women is you defend women that are ratchet. You see, I'm not going to defend no black man that is trash. If he's a trash man, he's not an honorable man. He's committing crime in the community. He's tearing up the place. I'm going to jump 2 foot in his ass because he's destroying the community. He's destroying his people.
100%.
I'm not going to defend no ratchet black man.
Amen.
Our sisters need to stop this sisterhood and hold each other accountable, which is the biggest problem in the black community. You allow these low frequency women to ruin your image for good black women. You don't hold them accountable. You allow low standards in our community. And black men will hold black men accountable, but you guys will not hold each other accountable. The biggest failure in our community. That's why some of these women behave the way they behave, and they have flooded the market with low frequency WAP. No standards, no morality.
Let me say something. You're right, Ingram. I agree with you 100%. You know, one of the greatest struggles, Coco Bunny, that a lot of women struggle with, they want men to speak the truth based on how they feel. So I am a licensed therapist. If you listen to what I said coming in early, I talk about vicarious trauma. I talked about it. So you can't come in on the back end if you didn't hear the whole message. I talked about that. I talk about it all the time. I talked about it several times on my show. I don't know if you're a subscriber or you just popped in, and I appreciate you watching. I just
popped in.
Right.
I didn't hear the beginning.
Right. So I talk about that all the time. But at the same time, we can't be victims of our own ignorance when we're more or less complicit in our own bad behavior. You are correct. Trauma and vicarious trauma play a role in the demise of the black evolution and the black family. But watch this. There was more trauma in the earlier stages of our evolution as a black family and black community, but yet we were still more cohesive. Now, we could argue that we were functional in our trauma, but yet our families were more intact, our women were more conservative, and we had a greater abiding faith in God. You and I both grew up in the church, Pentecostal holiness. But what happened after the 60s and around the 90s, things start going from bad to worse, to even worse than now, to the point now, if you condemn or more or less criticize anybody, it's a problem. You grew up in the church, and the gospel says this. The Bible said that a time will come, Coco Bunny, when they will not love the truth. And so anything that's a semblance of truth, people become in their feelings because the Bible said they love not the truth. So if a man speak the truth in love, if he speak it in assertion, if we speak it in aggression, people still don't love the truth, Coco Bunny, because it's kosher and it's fit and proper. Regardless of how you say it, people still gonna get in their feelings. You can say it soft and kind, they'll get in their feelings. You can say it with aggression, they get in their feelings. So we live in a time now where people just don't want to hear the truth, you know? And one of the biggest things about when women come into men's spaces, they get in their feelings because they want men to tell the truth based on how she feel. The truth doesn't give a damn about your feelings, it's just the truth. It doesn't care about my feelings. The truth is the truth. And so I think women got to be cognizant of that when they come into these spaces. Brothers in these spaces love sisters. You appear to be a very attractive woman. Lulu Bean's an attractive woman, but she's a very conscious and a very cogent woman. So we don't hate black women. Actually, the reason why we're talking about these issues is because we do love women. But would you rather black men be like a lot of black modern preachers that tell women what they want to hear to get the collection plate? Or would you rather for those men to speak the truth in love and stand firm on what they believe in? Which one would you take? Because we live in a time now, you got to have a conversation. But our people are so, how can I say it, so sensitive. anything that you say, the semblance of the truth, they get in their feelings. And what men are saying, listen, I can't be pigeonholed as a man to always assuage your emotions as a woman. I got to be willing to speak the truth with clarity and conviction, even if it's to my own embarrassment or my chagrin as a man, if that makes sense.
Can I come in, guys? Because I'm at work. I'm so
Let's
sorry.
go ahead, Darren. I got to go in
soon.
about 3 minutes. I got to hit this off.
So
Hey, Kosher.
I just
Go ahead, Lulu.
Let Lulu speak real quick.
My apologies. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I'll be as quick as possible. I just want to speak to a few things that Coco Bunny said. So the first being that, like Ingram and the man on the and Kosher and the man on the panel said, as soon as men ask women to be accountable, we will go to, well, we should both have something to say. Black men are saying this and women are saying that, and again, that is insincere. That's where we go to again. That's goal shifting, where it's both of our fault. Black men, as there's a quote that I will not forget, Coco Bunny, and it has stayed with me. And it was on the Lapeef show, and this man said that since the beginning of time, the black man was less than human. He was a slave. Then he was a super predator. Now he's a Pookie and a Ray Ray. So at no point has the black man been empowered in any way to oppress the black woman, and that has stayed with me. So the time is over where we blame black men for the breakdown of the black community, because the black man has been blamed by society, including the black woman as a whole, up till today. It's time that the black woman also gets to feel the same brunt that the black man has been called. We are ratchet. Look at the music we're listening to.
Right.
Look at the women that we defend. Look at who you called in to defend. We are ratchet. We are the problem, whether we are married or not. All of us. There isn't a thing such as a good woman or a bad woman, because we have to raise our black men and we have to raise our black daughters to change the current situation. So all of us are wrong. It is no longer the black man's fault. It is our fault. All of us. And then in terms of, we are giving outsiders a platform to speak. When Obama became president, you would have thought he became president of Africa. We were celebrating with you. That's how much influence Black American brothers and sisters have on the Black diaspora. The way we dress, the music that we're listening to, you as Black Americans dictate that direction. So when you're talking about outsiders and it's the Black diaspora that you are leading, whether it is in a good direction or in a negative direction. The Black diaspora as a whole looks to you. So that should tell you who you are as a people and the importance of who you are as a people. That is the responsibility that you have, and you've decided not to take that mantle. But you've been very unfair, I feel, coming on the platform. Like I said, you've defended Nicki Minaj and you're blaming black men, and that time is over. The black man is not responsible for anything anymore until we are vilified in the same manner that he has been vilified. It is not the black man's fault, sweetie. It's yours and it's mine.
I don't think that I put it on a black man at all. That's not what I said. Did you hear?
You did.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
Did everybody hear what I said? Did everybody hear what I said?
Both the black man and the women's fault.
That's not what I said. I said I was not looking for him to blame black women. When I asked that question, I was not looking for him to blame. You're not listening, darling. I said I was not listening for him to blame black men, and I was not looking for him to blame black women. I said I believe that it's due to our trauma. You were not paying attention to what I was saying.
You're going to blame everything else and that's
in prison.
That's not what I
remember,
said.
80% of us were prisoners. So I think
no,
that's a
that
lot of
blaming
blaming
on
everything except the black woman.
Listen to, I said that's part of our trauma. The reason why that you guys are, the reason why majority of us are in jail. You're not actually. I don't think you all are understanding what I'm trying to say. So let me say it again and make it plain and make it clear so that you guys do understand. When I went in and say that most of our men were in jail, and then I went to say that, do you think that the success of the Black family is totally dependent on the Black woman? And you all were like, yes, because, you know, if we were dressed a certain way or act a certain way or whatever like that, if we were, you went to sexual, the host, he went to sexual, if we were to basically respect ourselves a lot more. And I said, well, yeah, that, you know, if we did that, they would either have to comply or go elsewhere. And I agreed with him on that. Okay. But I also said, I believe that I was looking for you to say that, yeah, it was due to our trauma. And then he went on to say, well, you did not listen to the beginning of what I said. I think a lot of the times people don't listen and comprehend. Are you not retaining? Are you're taking certain things that I say, and then you're retaining it and then making it a certain way that it's not. You have to understand and you have to listen to what I'm trying to say. I did not blame Black men. Not once did I say it's because of the Black man. No, you've never heard me get on this panel and say that. You never heard me get on this panel and say that it's because of the Black woman. Yes, I said the reason why that it bothered me that he was talking about Nicki Minaj is because I don't like to hear Black men talk about Black women, and I don't like hearing Black women talk about Black men.
Hey, sister.
All right. Hey, guys, hold on. Too many people are talking. Go ahead, Yaziz, and then Ingram.
Yeah,
real quick. Go ahead, I have to go.
Okay, for the point that Coco came on here was to defend Nicki Minaj, and you have made mention that Nicki Minaj had said Black people need to eat Black men need to eat a penis, right?
Right.
Just from her simple Christian background,
right?
It's not what goes in a person's mouth; it's what comes out of a person's mouth that defiles them.
I totally
that
agree.
Alone should cancel Nicki Minaj, because what came out of her mouth defiled her. Period.
I agree, but like I said, I did not come in on the beginning. I did not hear
but
that.
Sister, what I'm saying to you, if that would be like me on this show defending Future, I am not going to defend Future. I'm not going to make any argument that he's intelligent, a good businessman, he's this, and that. He's terrible for the Black community. So I'm not going to defend a low frequency dude, just because he's rich. I'm not going to do that. What I'm saying to you, the difference is, you see how I'm holding him accountable? You're not holding, just because somebody, you know what I'm saying? Once you start let me drop a gem for some of you sisters out here. If I look on your social media account, if I'm dating a woman, if my boys are dating a woman, and they see Meg Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj, and all those things on the background on your social media pages, who you admire and worship, immediately you get dropped into pump and dump status, because who you support is a representation of who you might be. I say might. That's how men look at it. I try to teach women about that. Clean up your social media, because you have these social media platforms where you support a lot of low frequency things. Men put you in a certain mental category. Well, she must be that, or she must be that, because this is who she support. You're pump and dump. And you may not believe it or not, but that's how men view things. Is it fair? Maybe not. You might be a good person beyond that. But I see a lot of professional, educated women defending Meg Thee Stallion, defending Cardi B and all that. Men think of that as low frequency activity. They're not trying to wife up no woman that has a social media plastered with low frequency women. They assume that's you. And that's a gem for the women for free. You're not going to hear it from Steve Harvey, Derek Jenks, or any of these other simps in this space pandering to women. I speak from the perspective of the customer, which is men. I have 3 boys, 21 to 27, well-educated. They see that, they're not buying. That's just the reality of life.
No doubt. And I think that's why these conversations are so important. But listen, young lady, in less than 2 minutes, I have to go. I appreciate your clarity and your precision and you trying to add to the conversation. Thank you, Coco Bunny. Hopefully we can have more discussions. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. As you've noticed, I'm very fair. You might not agree with all my positions, but I've been very judicial in my response. There are some content creators who will say, I'm talking, or they'll mute you, but I try to be fair. So finish up in less than 2 minutes, young lady, and I really appreciate what you've added to the conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to. I didn't want to even get in the chat. They just kept asking me in the comments.
Right.
They kept asking me in the comments, and then you asked me to get in the chat, actually. Right. So then I got in the chat. All right. So I only got in here because all I heard was that Nicki Minaj was ratchet. Now I made a comment in the comments talking about what is ratchet, and then everybody asked me to get in the box. So that is why I got in the box, just to clarify. Actually, you are right. It's not 80%. It's 34%. I did look that up. My bad. But a lot of us are in jail. And I did just say that just to say that I feel like that it's due to the system, that a lot of the reasons why we have so many problems is because we're fighting a lot of things. And that's the only thing that I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to clarify. And that's just it.
Well, listen, I appreciate it, dear. Thank you for your precision once again, your ability to be cogent, responsive, and also accountable. And I do suggest that you go back and look at the beginning of the show. This show was talking about the inner sanctum of masculinity and why men should preserve their inner sanctum as it relates to dealing with power, fun, freedom, survival, and belonging. So I appreciate it again, Coco Bunny. Hopefully next time you come up, so we see what you look like.
I will definitely do that.
But I appreciate it, dear. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation.
No problem.
So real quick, Yaziz, in less than 1 minute, anything else you want to add? And Ingram, and also MC Recovery. I have to go. I have to get to the
office, I just want to say I thank everybody in the panel. Ingram, you dropped some fire for our mind today. Kosher, you always bring it. Thank y'all so much. Really appreciate it.
Fire for your mind.
Two things.
The kosher
is what comes out of a person's mouth that defiles them. And another one, because we're talking about Kevin also, what profiteth a man who gaineth the whole world but loses his soul?
Right.
That's all I have to say.
Hey, they laughing at Derek Jenks. I told you Jackson, man. That's how space.
All right, I apologies. My apologies.
No, you're funny. In less than 1 minute. In less than 1 minute, I have to go.
What I'm gonna say basically is this: the truth will never win a popularity contest. And in this country right now, attention is the most dangerous drug. So you're not going to make any fans by being honest with people, giving them straight facts. And sorry to the young lady if I came off a little bit too rough, but I think in our community, there's an issue. There's a morality problem, and there's an issue about virtues. We don't touch Lulu Bean or any other woman in this space because they come at us. If people have a problem with the manosphere's talking points and all this other stuff, attack us with virtues. It's like our kryptonite. Men are suckers for it. So with that said, enjoy this show, Kosher, and everybody have a wonderful day.
And also, I want to thank everybody for contributing to the Cash App. Thank you, guys.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
I appreciate that. In less than 1 minute.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
In less than 1 minute. What'd you get from the show?
Well, what I basically learned right in this space is that the truth will set you free. And it was in 2020 I came inside the manosphere and stuff, and the truth up in here set me free. I no longer have to walk on eggshells. I no longer have to make up or explain the why I mean to point to an individual or at a meeting. So, this is a nice space. I'm going to share it. I shared it when I cut the screen off because somebody wanted to know what show I was on. So,
well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. Thank you, MC Recovery. I appreciate all you do, brother. You always add clarity.
South Central in the house. Dennis was shocked that I was from South Central. So it's like we had a town hall yesterday.
I hear you, man.
And I almost cried too.
No doubt. Lulu Bean, real quick, sweetie, in less than 1 minute. I have to go. I got to get to the office in less than 1 minute. What'd you get from the show?
Women will be the first to tell you that they don't want to be judged on old school values. Women will tell you that we're modern and times are different. So are Black men. And women have to now start doing their research and finding out what is affecting Black men today. And they need to stop using slavery and anything else and any other excuse that they can think of to blame or to explain away female accountability. And we as Black women, we have to redefine what accountability means. Accountability isn't just, it's not about taking the blame. It is understanding what we have to do to change things. And it is no longer looking to the Black man to blame him for being in prison, to blame him for slavery or anything else. We are the ones that need to marry these Black men. We are the ones that need to raise these children, and we need to do. It's become more imperative, and our role has to change. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Well, thank you, dear. I appreciate it. I love your fire and your tenacity. I appreciate your opinions. I would say the majority of the brothers like what you say. There gonna always be agitators that disagree, and that's okay. I love to have civil discourse, and it's okay to agree on all points. But thank you, dear. Thank you for always contributing your wisdom and your insight.
Love you, Kosha.
I love you too, sweetie. And also share the content. Share it with like-minded people that think like you. And this has been a great discussion. So thank you, dear. Have a good one. All right, guys. So once again, guys, I told you that sometimes compromise can be seen in the form of beauty. The question remains in this show, as we go back and summarize it, are you compromising your inner sanctum as a man when you're in the presence of power, beauty, or more or less trying to appease those that can put you in a circumstance that can give you an advantage or an edge? This has been another good show. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. I have no animus towards that brother. I do respect him, but this was for conversation. And, and so if you guys have any issues with me, I don't have any problem with critical inquiry or critical conversations or critical debate, as long as it's fair and cogent. So this has been a great show. I appreciate everyone that watched and listened, and everybody that gave clarity, insight, and wisdom. And guys, please share the content to the 6-8 that are watching. If you don't have any money, if you have not donated, share this content. As you guys know that I'm encroaching 3,000 subs. I'm trying to get this channel to 10,000 at some point. I am a licensed clinical therapist. I'm matriculated at the University of North Carolina. I went to North Carolina Central and also have a background in law enforcement. So feel free to also inbox me for clinical diagnostic consultation or non-diagnostic consultations at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I want to help you guys become the better versions of yourself, because I'm a firm believer that when you empower your men, you can empower your women. If you protect his 6, he'll protect your 6. And I need you guys to remember this. There are 7 steps to male optimization. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. This has been another good show, guys. We're about to sign off. Please share the content, as I said before earlier, and let everything I talked about resonate in your soul, mind, body, and spirit, as these conversations are not only timely, but these conversations are very important in the evolution of the Black family and the community. Be well.
Work in finance. God bless, no, this not by chance. Don't dab me, you're not my man. Don't at me, you're not my man. Mama said don't buy it if you cannot buy it twice. I cop by the tools and I don't pump fake with the price. Always on the grind, I put in work with all my might. I know that he got me, not by sight. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like Dandies, I slide out Landies. Black like that, fit 4 days, that's for sure though. Grinding from the grip, no shame, take a photo. Time to take a trip, we head north to the border. Say you feeling up, I'm my favorite type of hoarder. I got kids to feed, I got enemies, I got guys give, so they envy me. Got some friends down Memphis like I'm Aubrey. Got some friends fought for orange like some autumn leaves. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like Dandies, Yeah, yeah. I skirt, I vanish. Slide outlandish. Detour veggie. All black like Batman. All black like Batman. All black like Batman. All black like Batman. All black like
Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline.
yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my
money line.
Why check Castro, yeah, I need my
Money line,
Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Watch out for those who surround you, need no funny kind. You can't see what's on my brain, I live inside my mind. Out of space and out of sight, you need me in my line. Need no face, don't need no phonies, no. Need no snakes, no only homies down for show. On go. Get a book and get the front end, we load up and roll. I got kids, yeah, I got staff, I make a little need more. I sell records, you sell packs, not on my level, no. I'm a pop star, I'm a rock star, I'm a winner. Think I'm not hard, you smoke rock hard waste, man, why you dumb? I'm with airline, we on airlines like we on the run. I'm with Tay, girls run up on me, they done.
money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline.
Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my
Money line,
Why check Castro, yeah, I need my
money line,
Why check Castro, yeah, I need my
Ma jolie, oh ma jolie. Ah yeah. Every time I come around you, baby girl, something doesn't feel the same. You said that I'm changing, but it's really you. I see how you play those games. Wifey type for a main man. A queen can make moves, a king can't. Snatch you up, now you taking. Gave you bricks, now you building a wall up. Lately you and I've been all love. I don't know what's up with our love. You forgetting all about us, oh. My jolie, oh my jolie, where are you? When I need you the most, you still MIA. This is murder, heart is melting, girl you got me. Called your bluffing, made you something, now you talking. Telling me to cool it off, how can I cool it off, telling me to cool it off, how can I cool it off, my jolie, oh my jolie, my jolie, oh my jolie. You don't turn on me now, you don't get no time for me now, babe. Got him on a rebound, but it's only you that I like, babe. Tout ce que j'ai fait c'était pour toi. Sur le haut parle mais t'écoutes pas. Tu me vois crever mais tu bouges pas. Pourquoi? Whoa, yo, wall up, you can't even get the scars up. For us, I don't know what's up with our love, you forgetting all about us, oh. My jolie, oh my jolie, where you been? When I need you the most, you still MIA. This is murder, heart is melting, girl you got me. This is more than bluffing, made you something, now you talking. I call you bluffing. Telling me to cool it off, how can I cool it off, telling me to cool it off, how can I cool it off, my jolie, oh my jolie. My jolie, oh my jolie. thing, made you something, now you talking. You telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? Telling me to cool it off, cool it off. How can I cool it off, cool it off? Cool it off. I don't know how to cool it off. Marjorie, oh Marjorie.
I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Hold you down till you dry. Hold you down till you dry. All the time, he's my mind. All the time, he's my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen. I've been living wild, I'm just going through the motions. Stumbling out the Uber, grabbed my hand, gave me a notion. Swimming in your water, but it feels just like the ocean. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Hold you down till you dry. Hold you down till you dry. All the time, he's my mind. All the time, he's my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I was sipping more for 2 years straight to the face. Champagne belly bubble still won't go away. Last year my best man hit a stain with bad face. Now he's got a LB on the water's cold case. I wake up with pain sometime and never go away. Wonder why I bow to my knees when I pray. In my city gritty, gotta keep it on your waist. Or you might be a victim, they'll find you DOA. I can't lie, I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Hold you down till you dry. Hold you down till you dry. All the time, he's my mind. All the time, he's my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. Time to run it all. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies.